Chapter 181. Chapter 181, Secrets in the Computer. But since Meng Yaro had said that the data box was between the first and second floors, there was no way Lin Yi was going upstairs. General Wei Wu couldn't stop him, and wouldn't stop him, but Lin Yi wasn't the type of person who liked to peep at people. Even if he were to go upstairs, he'd do it openly. What was the point of sneaking around like this? Lin Yi walked up the stairs quickly, and found a hidden data box on the wall between the first and second floors. It was wallpapered, and he wouldn't be able to tell if he didn't look closely. Lin Yi opened the data box. He didn't know much about the network, but the labels on the data box were clear. Evidently, the people living in the villa area were all rich people, and not many of them knew about the wiring. The developers had taken this into consideration when they built the house, and the switches in each room were clearly labeled. All they had to do was follow the instructions on the labels, and everything would be fine. As expected, the data box in his room didn't have a phone or internet connection. Lin Yi turned on the internet, but didn't need a phone. He had a phone, after all, and didn't need a phone. With that done, Lin Yi closed the data box and went downstairs. Meng Yaro only glanced at him, noticing that he'd come down so quickly, and that General Wei Wu didn't react at all. She decided that Lin Yi probably hadn't gone up to the second floor, and so she turned her attention back to the TV. Yu Shu and Xu Shahan were dancing excitedly. Lin Yi wasn't interested at all. He went back to his room and started looking at Yu Shu's computer. It was a branded computer, with nice specs and looks, but it was a little feminine. The case and monitor were very bright and colorful, and even the mouse and keyboard were very stylish. Girls liked stuff like that. But Lin Yi wasn't picky about stuff like that, he'd just have to make do with it. He plugged in the computer and turned it on, entering the system in no time at all. Yu Shu's desktop was very clean, with almost no software. There were only QQ and Feixin, a video player, and a few other common software. There weren't any professional ones at all. Lin Yi opened the D drive of the computer. There were two folders inside. One was a video, and the other was a photo album. Lin Yi got a little excited when he saw the folder name. It couldn't be Yu Shu, could it? He turned his head to look at the locked door before opening the videos folder with shaky hands. As for Yu Shu, Lin Yi had always had a good impression of her. She was the type of girl that people liked easily. She looked like a brainless, carefree girl, but she was actually very shrewd. In contrast to Meng Yao's arrogance, Yu Shu was much more approachable and approachable. She was basically the bridge between him and the miss, and it was only natural that Lin Yi had a good impression of her. Lin Yi was practically drooling at the thought of Yu Shu's explosively hot body. "Hey, Miss Chen, you didn't think that I'd have something on you, did you?" Lin Yi looked at the videos folder with a perverted gaze, only to feel a wave of disappointment wash over him. Damn it, it was all music videos or concerts of Xu Shahan. Where were the selfies? Lin Yi clicked on two random ones without much interest, and it was exactly the same as the one he'd seen on TV. The singer was quite pretty, but Lin Yi didn't want to waste his time on an imaginary idol. He'd rather use that time on his own things. Teasing Tang Yun. Flirting with Yu Shu. Bickering with Ling Shan. Even seeing Miss Chu glaring at him wasn't bad, haha. It was better than watching videos of his idol. At least it was someone he'd seen in real life. Closing the videos folder, Lin Yi placed all his hopes on the albums folder, but Lin Yi didn't have much hope this time. After all, he'd been disappointed once before. There was a high chance that this albums folder contained pictures of Xu Shahan, if he were to go by the content of the videos. Lin Yi opened the albums folder, not as excited as before. But as soon as he opened it, Lin Yi's eyes widened. There were two folders in the albums folder, one was called Xu Shahan, and the other was called My Albums. Lin Yi's disappointed heart was once again filled with excitement. The Xu Shahan folder was automatically filtered out by him, and Lin Yi opened the My Albums folder. As expected, there were some scattered pictures inside, and from the names of the files, it was obvious that they were taken with a digital camera or a phone. Lin Yi's heart was filled with excitement. He quickly double-clicked on the first picture, anxiously waiting for the computer to respond. It only took a second, and Lin Yi's eyes were glued to the computer screen. Actually, Lin Yi's nature was the same as other normal boys. A bit of a pervert. The pictures opened, And it wasn't the selfie style that Lin Yi was expecting, but a normal life picture. Yushu was sitting on the sofa, looking a little lazy and immature, but still beautiful all the same. The date on the picture showed that it was taken 3 years ago, when Yushu was in her first year of high school. Lin Yi flipped through the album, and other than Yushu, there were also pictures of Mengyaro and Yushu. There were also pictures of the two of them together, some of them in their pajamas, but they weren't out of bounds. They could be counted as private pictures, but they were a far cry from the selfie type. Even so, Lin Yi was still enjoying it. He lived under the same roof as these two beauties, and Lin Yi was too embarrassed to look at them with his eyes wide open. Now that he had the pictures, it was easier to look at them. From the time of the pictures, Lin Yi could see that Mengyaro and Yushu had changed from two young girls to the beautiful women they were now. These pictures were proof of their growth and friendship, and it was very precious. Most of the pictures were of the two going out and having fun, and the two would go on a trip every winter and summer break. Lin Yi just didn't know who was taking the pictures. It couldn't be Forbert, could it? Lin Yi couldn't help but think of Forbert huffing and puffing behind the two girls with a camera on his back. Well, it seemed like a part of Forbert's work had been transferred to him already. Was he the Mrs. Follower now? Lin Yi stopped smiling at the thought. Next time, he'd probably be the one carrying the camera around, wouldn't he? Chapter 182. A warning to the head. Lin Yi didn't have anything else to do at the moment, so he opened up the internet and searched for the named Sihua. Most of the news was positive, and only a few small forums had some comments about how Sihua was a local boss, saying that he could do whatever he wanted. None of that was of any use to Lin Yi. Lin Yi closed the webpage and turned to search for information about Dr. Kang. Since Lin Yi was planning to show off his skills in the medical industry, it was a necessity for him to know about this Dr. Kang. What Lin Yi didn't expect was that the man was Kang Xiaobo's grandfather. It was a bit of a coincidence. A man couldn't live without money. His old man was very strict with him, but Lin Yi had never complained about it. A mission was worth a few hundred kuai. It wasn't even as much as the funds for the mission. His Shifu wasn't a stingy man, and the rest of the money would be transferred to his old man's account, other than the portion that the organization had to keep. But the old man only gave him a few hundred kuai. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to argue about it. The only possibility was that the old man had taken the money for himself. But to Lin Yi, the old man was like a father to him, the one who'd raised him from a young age. If the old man was greedy, then so be it. Lin Yi could only pretend that he didn't know anything about it, since he didn't have to worry about food and clothing. What Lin Yi didn't understand, however, was why the old man was still so poor after taking the money. Was he a modern-day grandit? He was getting Peng Zhan's salary every month, but Lin Yi didn't have a source of income of his own. Who knew what was going on with this mission? Lin Yi still couldn't figure it out. He had to leave a backup plan. What if he lost his job? Lin Yi had truly fallen in love with his current life. He went to school like any other high schooler. He had his friends, and the girl he had a crush on. From the reviews on the internet, Dr. Kang's reputation was pretty good. It was just that the medicine was either too popular or too hard to get a hold of, resulting in a situation where there wasn't a market for it. But that only served to prove how amazing the medicine was. Lin Yi hadn't seen what Dr. Kang's golden creation looked like, but Lin Yi was confident that his old man's prescription wouldn't be much worse than Dr. Kang's. The market would probably be split in two if he were to bring it out. Lin Yi didn't have anything to do the next day, so he naturally wouldn't drive to school by himself. Mengyaro and Yushu were yawning as they walked downstairs, evidently having stayed up late last night to watch the concert. Lin Yi didn't think much of the star's attractiveness at all. She was a bit prettier than Mengyaro and Yushu, but that was only because of the makeup and the stage effects. Mengyaro and Yushu were on par with the star in terms of quality, and Lin Yi felt that he'd rather watch his two girls than the star. That concert yesterday was so good. I wonder when Lil Han's coming to Songshan for her concert. Yushu was still thinking about the show last night. Man, Songshan's not a provincial city, and it's not a special economic zone either. It'll probably be a little difficult. Mengyaro said. We have to get a Blu-ray of the concert. We didn't get enough of it yesterday. Yeah, we'll go buy it at noon. See if there's a music store near the school. Yushu nodded. But there don't seem to be any legal ones near the school. We'll have to go to the bookstore if we want to buy the original one. Lin Yi. Meng Yaro called out to the idling Lin Yi. Go get us a Blu-ray of Xu Shahan's 2011 concert if you're free this afternoon. The first one was a month ago. I'm sure they'll be selling it by now. Okay. Lin Yi nodded as he watched the two star chasers chatting away. It was a small matter. Lin Yi didn't think much of it. You're so smart, Yao Yao. With Shield Bro running errands, we don't have to walk that far anymore. Yushu had been grumbling about how far it was to walk to the bookstore, about 1 kilometer, and she didn't want to trouble Forbert to come over at noon. Meng Yaro handing the task to Lin Yi straight away made her very happy. I didn't hire him to hit on girls, I hired him to do things. Meng Yaro curled her lips as she glared at Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. It wasn't her business if he hit on girls, was it? It was fine as long as he didn't hit on the miss. Even a follower needed love. Lin Yi looked out of the window when Forbert's car arrived at the slums. Lin Yi let out a breath of relief when he saw that Tang Yun was safe and sound, waiting at the bus stop. It seemed like that little gangster wasn't bothering Tang Yun today. Zhu Ruoming was furious. Yes, he was furious to the extreme. Lin Yi and Tang Yun were walking together. Naturally, Zhu Ruoming heard about Lin Yi and Tang Yun's confession and Tang Yun's shyness. The school was only that big, how could the Big Four not know about it? Originally, Zhu Ruoming had a good plan. He would force Tang Yun to abdicate at her mother's place, and then create a false impression that Tang Yun was Zhu Ruoming's girlfriend. He would let the whole school know about this, and Tang Yun would have no choice but to accept him. But the plan changed quickly. Zhu Ruoming didn't think that Lin Yi would come out of nowhere and ruin his plan. He even got slapped in the face and became a laughingstock. This made Zhu Ruoming lose face, and at the same time, he hated Lin Yi. He planned to let his big brother, Zhu Ruoguang, teach Lin Yi a lesson. But because of what happened with Heibao Bro, Zhu Ruoming didn't dare to let his big brother teach someone a lesson in the school. He could only wait for a suitable opportunity, or wait for the storm to blow over. One had to know that Heibao Bro was in the police station and was going to be sentenced. Although Pinliang's father suppressed the matter and didn't implicate Pinliang, Pinliang's father, Zhong Fabai, wasn't able to get Heibao Bro out of jail. This was proof of how big the matter was. In fact, Songshan First High wasn't a normal high school, but a private school with a strong background. Zhu Ruoming could imagine that if Zhong Pingliang's uncle wasn't one of the directors of the school, he would have been expelled a long time ago. As a result, Ruoming had no choice but to bear with it for the time being. But that opportunity didn't come. The rumors that had been spreading around the school yesterday were like a hammer to his head. Ruoming was dumbfounded. Chapter 183. Chapter 183, Zhong Pinliang's trick. Zhu Ruoming was starting to panic. Tang Yun was one of the best girls he'd seen in his years of traveling around the city. Girls like her were too rare, not like those with makeup and pretty clothes. Tang Yun's beauty came from the bottom of her heart, a natural beauty. There were only 3 of them in the entire Songshan Middle School. He couldn't even touch 2 of them. Anyone who touched them would die. Zhu Ruoming wasn't an idiot. Meng Yao's father was the chairman of Pengzhan Industries, a man who could shake Songshan with just a stomp of his foot. Only someone like Zhong Pinliang, with a strong family background, would dare go after her, but even he wouldn't dare do anything to her. As for Yu Shu, even Pinliang didn't dare touch that girl. Wu Xiaozan's painful lesson was still fresh in his mind. Tang Yun, on the other hand, wasn't as talented. Zhu Ruoming knew everything about her family background. Her parents were both laid-off workers, and her father was bedridden due to a work-related injury. Her mother worked at the food street behind the school. A family that couldn't even get their father's medical compensation, what could they possibly do? As far as Zhu Ruoming was concerned, he had Tang Yun under his thumb. Even if he forced himself on her, a family like Tang Yun's wouldn't be able to do anything about it. This was why Zhu Ruoming had pursued Tang Yun without a care in the world, almost pushing her to the brink of insanity. From Zhu Ruoming's perspective, Tang Yun would have been his woman already if it weren't for Lin Yi's interference. Now, Tang Yun had accepted Lin Yi's confession. The hero saving the damsel in distress was a cliché, but it was effective. He must have played the villain that day, giving Lin Yi a chance. Zhu Ruoming regretted it. If he'd known this would happen, he would have gotten his lackeys to play the villain and let them show off their skills. Sitting under the basketball hoop, Zhu Ruoming was sulking. His lackeys also knew that Zhu Ruoming was in a bad mood, so they didn't dare to speak. "Brother Ming, what's wrong? Why do you look so depressed?" Pin Liang saw Zhu Ruoming's sad face as he sat under the basketball hoop. His face alternated between anger and regret, and he could guess why Zhu Ruoming was like this. Pin Liang's sharp senses told him that this was a good chance to teach Lin Yi a lesson. "Oh, it's Liang Zi." Zhu Ruoming raised his eyelids and saw that it was Zhong Pingliang, but he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Zhong Pingliang wasn't much better off than him. He'd lost to Lin Yi as well. His old man's men were all in jail, and Zhu Ruoming and Zhong Pingliang were just the pot calling the kettle black. "Are you here to watch me make a fool of myself? Brother Ming, what are you talking about? I've always respected you, Brother Ming." Pin Liang patted one of the lackeys beside Zhu Ruoming, and the lackey quickly moved aside, letting Pin Liang sit beside Zhu Ruoming. "Liang Zi, I've been slapped in the face this time." Zhu Ruoming sighed and said hatefully, "Everyone in the school knows that I'm chasing after Tang Yun, but that bastard Lin Yi beat me to it. I can't take this lying down. Ming bro, I think that you're too conservative in this matter," Pin Liang said with a pained expression. "Tang Yun's family background isn't that big of a deal. There's a saying, the one who strikes first gains the advantage. Ming bro, if you force her, wouldn't Tang Yun be yours now? Right now, even if I want to force myself on you, I don't dare to. You know that Meng Yao's family is even more powerful than mine." "Ah, you're right, Liang Zi. Don't even mention how much I regret it now." Zhu Ruoming's face darkened. "If I knew this would happen, I would have forced myself on her. I'm a professional at this, I've done it before." "That's right," Pin Liang said. "How could I let that bastard Lin Yi beat me to it? But it's too late now, I regret it." Zhu Ruoming had been holding it in for a long time, but now that a young bully with a similar identity appeared, and the two of them were in the same boat, having a common enemy, Lin Yi, it was only natural that Zhu Ruoming would complain to him. "Ming bro, I don't agree with what you said." Pin Liang suddenly changed the topic. "As the saying goes, a good meal isn't too late. It's not too late for you to make your move now. No matter how fast Lin Yi is, he won't be able to take Tang Yun in 2.5 days. If you take her now, she'll be with you." Pin Liang didn't have much education, and he didn't know if he was using the right words. Fortunately, Zhu Ruoming was a fool. He didn't understand what a good meal isn't too late meant, but he felt that Pin Liang's words made sense. Zhu Ruoming slapped his thigh and shouted in surprise. "That's right, why didn't I think of that? It's not too late for me to make my move now. Tang Yun will be mine, and Lin Yi won't be able to play anymore." "Liang Zi, you've really woken me up." Ruoming matched Pin Liang's when Zuzu line with his own in order to show off his culture level. "Man, Ming bro, there's hope for your path of love, but I still need to work hard." Pin Liang was overjoyed when he saw that Zhu Ruoming had accepted his suggestion. Now that Tang Yun was fucked by Zhu Ruoming, Lin Yi would probably be very depressed, right? Ha ha ha. But on the surface, Pin Liang still acted sad and helpless. "Liang Zi, I'll thank you heavily after this is done." Zhu Ruoming clenched his fist as if he had seen hope. "But don't reject me when I ask you to give me some advice. Don't worry, it'll be fine," Pin Liang said happily. Why was she asking for his help? All right, that was his strength. Pin Liang hummed a tune as he walked to the classroom. Zhu Ruoming was happy to play basketball with his lackeys now that he'd solved his problem. Pin Liang saw his lackey Zhong Naipao running towards him like crazy before he reached the classroom door. It was as if he had seen his savior. "Pao, what are you doing? You're running so fast, are you training for the sports day?" Pin Liang was in a good mood today, so he joked with Naipao. "Liang bro, I'm begging you, save my dad, save my brother," Naipao said as he knelt down in front of Pin Liang. Pin Liang froze at Naipao's sudden action. "Pao, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with your dad and brother? How can I save you? Can't you explain it more clearly?" Pin Liang frowned. He didn't understand what Lin Yi was talking about. Chapter 184. Chapter 184, Zhong Naipao's Pli Pao, Get Up First. What's up with you kneeling on the ground? Pin Liang didn't look like he was joking, but this wasn't the right place to be kneeling on the ground. Liang bro, please, promise me. I'll get up if you promise. Naipao's only hope was Pin Liang right now. If Pin Liang was willing to help him, then his family would be safe. Alright, I promise you. Get up now. Pin Liang said as he pulled Naipao up. Pao, if you have something to say, just say it. This is a school, what would people think of you kneeling on the ground? Liang bro. I'm sorry, I was too impulsive. Naipao said, realizing that his actions weren't very appropriate. You can't do that even if you're impulsive. Pin Liang said. Alright, let's talk about it first. Liang bro, my dad's doing business, and a competitor set him up. Naipao explained. They're going to sue him for fraud, and he's going to jail. Pin Liang frowned. He knew about Naipao's family. It wasn't too bad. His father was doing business outside, and his mother was a full-time housewife. How did this happen? But what does this have to do with your brother? Pin Liang asked. They're forcing my dad to pay back the money, so my brother has to sell his kidney. Naipao said. Your brother has to sell his kidney? Pin Liang didn't understand. Why not you? I'd go if I could sell my kidneys. Why would I ask my brother to do it? Naipao said. I did some research, and they said that I'm a yin blood or something. I don't know much about it, but it's just that kidneys for people with my blood type aren't easy to find, and there aren't many people who need it. I can't sell it anytime soon. I see. Pin Liang nodded. Then how do you want me to help you? Liang bro, can you lend my family some money to help us get through this? Naipao said. Even if I have to work like a horse or cow, I'll repay your kindness for the rest of my life. How much? Pin Liang wasn't much of a person, but Naipao had been with him for a long time, and he'd always been his follower and vanguard. Pin Liang couldn't just ignore him. 700,000. Naipao said carefully. What? 700,000? So many. Pin Liang paused. If it was 100,000 or 80,000, he could just gather some of his New Year's money, but 700,000 was out of his reach. That's right, brother Liang. If it wasn't for the huge amount, I wouldn't have come to beg you. Naipao said with a bitter face, Liang bro, please help me if you need me, just say the word. If you need a cow, I'll be a cow. If you need a horse, I'll be a horse. Brother Liang, I won't even blink if you ask me to commit suicide. Hey, Naipao, don't worry. This is a serious matter, and I don't have that much money. You know that. Pin Liang said. I can only give my dad a call. You go back to class first, I'll think about how I'm going to tell him. Liang bro, you have to help me. Naipao thought that Pin Liang was just brushing him off, that he didn't want to help. Listen to me, Naipao. You've been with me for 3 years. I'll do my best for you. Don't think too much, I'm just thinking about how I'm going to tell my dad. Pin Liang patted Naipao's shoulder. Alright, Liang bro, I'll go back first. You have to help me. Naipao nodded. Pin Liang went back to class, thinking about Naipao's situation. Logically speaking, 700,000 was a small amount for his family, but it was enough to buy a luxury car. Pin Liang had to think about it carefully. Naipao had been with him for 3 years. He'd been his follower for 3 years. He'd been at his beck and call every day, and he'd never complained. This touched Pin Liang a little. But, being touched was one thing. What Pin Liang cared more about was the benefits this 700,000 would bring him. With this 700,000, Pin Liang believed that Naipao would owe him a huge favor, a huge one at that. If he ever needed Naipao's help in the future, with his personality, there was no way he wouldn't push it away. But was 700,000 really worth it? Pin Liang weighed the pros and cons in his mind. Judging from Naipao's actions of sacrificing himself to save his brother, the kid had some sense of loyalty. But loyalty? Did he really need it from Naipao? Pin Liang decided that he'd call his father and ask for his opinion. With that in mind, Naipao left the classroom and went to the washroom. Seeing that there was no one there, he took out his phone and called his father, Zhong Fabai. Pin Liang? Fabai's heart sank when he got his son's call. It had been a very eventful time. He'd just taken care of Heibao's business, and he couldn't let anything go wrong. Under normal circumstances, Pinliang wouldn't call him on his own. If he did, then something big must have happened. Lin Yi quickly asked, "What happened?" "Dad, I have something to discuss with you," Pinliang said. "Oh, what is it?" Fabai let out a breath of relief when he heard that Pinliang was just looking for him. As long as it wasn't a big problem. "It's like this Zhong Naipao from our class, you remember him, right?" Pinliang asked. "Zhong Naipao? Oh, I know, your follower. What happened to him?" Fabai knew of Naipao. The kid often came to play with someone called Gao Xiaofu. "It's like this, Zhong Naipao's family is in some trouble. His father got screwed over in a business deal, and now he's in a huge debt. The other party wants him to pay up, and if he doesn't, they'll sue him." Pinliang kept the story short. "Zhong Naipao's begging me now, he wants me to lend him some money." "Oh, that's what happened." Fabai got the gist of it. It was actually very simple. His son's classmate's family was in trouble, and he wanted to borrow money from his son. "Son, what do you think?" "Dad, Zhong Naipao's my buddy, he's been with me for so long, always at my beck and call. It's only right that I lend him money when he's in trouble," Pinliang said. "But the amount he's asking for is a little too big." "How much?" Fabai asked. Chapter 185. Chapter 185, Buying People's Hearts. 700,000. For an ordinary family, this is a huge sum of money. Fabai nodded, but it wasn't much to him. "Then what do you think?" "I'm thinking, is it worth it to give this money away?" Pinliang said. "Son, it's important to be loyal when you're in society," Fabai said with a smile. "Just like this Zhong Naipao, he's your underling, and you're his boss. You can't just leave him be if something happens to him. But the thing is, how's this underling's character? Would he go through fire and water for you? If you ever need his help in the future, would he step up?" "Dad, I can promise that. Zhong Naipao may be a bit of an idiot, but he's definitely a loyal man. I'll help him out this time, and if I ever need his help in the future, I'll let him die for me," Pinliang said. "Haha, isn't that it?" Fabai smiled. "When I was young, I helped an underling as well. I didn't have much use for him back then, but many years later, when my shoddy construction got into trouble, this underling stood up and took the blame for me. So, Pinliang, you need to be accurate in your judgment of people. If this Zhong Naipao is really useful, then I'll give him this money," Fabai smiled. "That's why, Pinliang, you need to be accurate in choosing people. If this Zhong Naipao is really useful, then I'll give him this money." "Dad, I'm not involved in any projects. I don't need someone to take the blame for me." Pinliang still didn't want to. "It was 700,000. Why don't you have it? I've taken care of Heibao for you, but if he bites you out, you'll be in jail too. With this Zhong Naipao, you can just push the blame onto him, say that he's the mastermind, and that you were just tricked into participating. That'll be fine, right?" Fabai said. "Of course, taking the blame is just one fact. There are some dangerous things, like killing someone. You can't do it yourself. So, if there's nothing wrong with this guy, 700,000 is worth it." "I understand, Dad. I'll talk to him later." Pinliang agreed with his father's words. If he were to get into trouble in the future, or if there was something he couldn't handle himself, he could always ask Naipao to do it for him. It'd be like leaving something up his sleeve. "Go, Pinliang, you've grown up. You need to train your own men and confidants," Zhong Fabai said. "This will be very useful for you when you enter society in the future." Pinliang, on the other hand, nodded repeatedly. After hanging up, Pinliang dialed up Naipao's number. Naipao didn't dare answer the phone in the classroom, but seeing that it was Pinliang, he quickly got up and ran out of the classroom. He looked around and saw Pinliang waving at him from the bathroom door. He quickly ran over. "Liang bro, you're looking for me, Pao, I've told my dad about you." Pinliang paused to keep Lin Yi in suspense. "Brother Liang, how is it? What did Uncle Zhong think?" Naipao's heart skipped a beat, his face changing color as he looked at Pinliang anxiously, waiting for the final result. "My dad said that you're my bro, so he'll give me the money," Pin Liang patted Nai Pao's shoulder. Come with me to my dad's company after school. Really? Liang bro? Nai Pao looked at Pin Liang in disbelief. Liang bro, you're really willing to lend me 700,000? I'm not lending it to you, I'm giving it to you. Pin Liang knew that Nai Pao wouldn't be able to pay it back, and it wasn't like his family was lacking that much anymore. He might as well use the money to buy Nai Pao's heart. You're my follower, how can I not help you when you're in trouble? Liang bro, you're really my boss. Nai Pao couldn't be any more emotional after hearing Pin Liang's words. He knelt on the ground with a thud. Liang bro, I, Zhong Nai Pao, am not someone who doesn't know how to repay favors. Don't worry, if your Liang bro tells me to hang myself, I won't jump into the water. If you tell me to go east, I'll cut my head off and throw it east. I'll never go west. Haha. Pin Liang smiled as he helped Nai Pao up. It's still too early to talk about that. I know what kind of person you are, Zhong Nai Pao, but we'll talk about this later. Liang bro, I swear, if you don't believe me, I'll kill myself right now. Nai Pao was starting to panic. That's not what I meant. Alright, Nai Pao, I know what you're thinking, alright? Let's go back to the classroom if I need your help in the future, just don't reject me. Pin Liang nodded satisfied. It seemed like Nai Pao had bought him over, and now he had a backup plan. Kang Xiaobo hadn't slept at all last night, thinking about going to Tang Yin's house for barbecue. As the saying went, which girl didn't want to fall in love? Which boy didn't want to? This was an era full of sunshine, youthfulness, and hope for the future. Kang Xiaobo hoped that he could meet a beautiful girl, and start a beautiful relationship with her. He knew that Tang Yin wouldn't like him, but Kang Xiaobo was still very excited. Going to the school beauty's house for a meal. Even if nothing happened, it was still something to be proud of. Boss, are we going on Saturday or Sunday? Kang Xiaobo couldn't wait. I don't know. Lin Yi shrugged. Why are you so excited? Heh. The school beauty's treating us. You're the only one who doesn't care. Kang Xiaobo said. So many boys want to get close to the school beauty, but they can't. Aren't you excited to have a chance to be alone with the school beauty? Lin Yi was speechless. Excited my ass, there were 2 school beauties at home. But he couldn't say that to Kang Xiaobo. I'm just a little excited, but she seems to hate me. Boss, you should be content. If it was someone else, they wouldn't be able to hate her even if they wanted to. She doesn't talk much with people. Ah. I'll go ask her during lunch break then. Lin Yi was thinking about buying the concert disc for Meng Yaro and Yu Shu. He was worried that no one would accompany him, so he dragged Kang Xiaobo along. Okay. Kang Xiaobo nodded. Let's go together, and get some barbecue on the way. Forget about barbecue, Tang Yin's mom won't charge us if we go now. Lin Yi said. You can't let her spend money twice, can you? Chapter 186. The stand sold out. So are you eating at Tang Yin's house this weekend or at noon? One of the two. Lin Yi asked. Let's go this weekend then. Kang Xiaobo evidently didn't want to miss out on a good opportunity like this. There were exams almost every day in the 12th year's half of the morning class was spent on exams. Lin Yi had been on a mission back then, but he'd completely assimilated into life now. He'd assimilated into this school, this class. Most importantly, his age. Lin Yi felt like he'd gotten a lot younger in this time. He was starting to see things from the perspective of a person his age should be. He'd started to like chatting with his new friends, joking around with pretty girls. He'd fallen in love with this school, this class. He'd fallen in love with Tang Yin, this arrogant yet cute girl. How long would this last? Perhaps a few days, perhaps a few months. He'd go back to his old life, and all of this would no longer belong to him. He'd truly enjoyed the beauty of life, and Lin Yi was tired of his old life. There was no excitement to speak of other than the thrill of killing, and Lin Yi was numb to his enemies. It was time to talk to his old man. Perhaps this was the life he'd been looking forward to. Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo left class at noon. There was a test in the last class, and the class ended a little later than the other classes. Most of the students had already left the school building. Meng Yaro and Yu Shu went to the cafeteria as usual, eating at the small restaurant on the second floor. They didn't care how many people there were on the first floor. They didn't need to wait in line to order. Food Street was always bustling at noon. The 12th graders, on the other hand, didn't come here often due to their tight schedule. The 1st and 2nd graders, however, had already crowded the place. The food here wasn't exactly clean, nor was it particularly delicious, but it was much better and cheaper than the food in the cafeteria. Mrs. Tang's barbecue stand was unusually popular today, and there were many students crowding around it. That was how news in school spread like wild, good or bad. For example, Lin Yi's love letter to Tang Yin had spread like wildfire in the 12th grade before class even started. Mrs. Tang's barbecue stall was the same as well. The enticing aroma, coupled with the endless praises from the students who'd tasted it, had the entire crowd surrounding the stall. That was how things were in a lot of situations. The more people there were, the more they wanted to join the crowd. Mrs. Tang was excited, but at the same time, she was overwhelmed with work. It looked like the ingredients she had prepared today wouldn't even be enough for lunch. It looked like she had to make a trip home in the afternoon to prepare more. Still going. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he looked at Xiaobo. There's a little too many people here, asking when he's going to her house this weekend in front of all these people. Isn't that just asking for trouble? Do you think Tang Yin can answer? Kang Xiaobo thought about it and agreed. Tang Yin was afraid of people saying that she had a relationship with Lin Yi. How could Tang Yin answer if he asked her when he was going to her Tang's Tang family dinner? If things got out of hand, the treat for the weekend might be cancelled. Then, should we wait? Kang Xiaobo asked hesitantly. Come with me to the bookstore and buy some stuff. Lin Yi nodded. We'll come back in a bit. Kang Xiaobo didn't know what Lin Yi wanted to buy, but he admired Lin Yi from the bottom of his heart. Whatever Lin Yi said, he agreed without hesitation. In the bookstore, Lin Yi bought a CD of Xu Shahan's concert. Kang Xiaobo was surprised. Boss, you like Xu Shahan too? Oh. Ha. Lin Yi didn't know how to answer the question. A little. Kang Xiaobo paused. A little? Why did he come all the way here to buy the original? I bought it for a friend. That was the only explanation he could come up with. Luckily, Kang Xiaobo didn't ask more and changed the topic to Xu Shahan. Boss, I like Xu Shahan too. I heard that she's a rare pure girl in the entertainment industry. Pure girl? Lin Yi curled his lips. How many pure girls were proven to be lustful? Superficial things like that couldn't be trusted. The two of them ate beef noodles downstairs in the bookstore before returning to school. When they arrived at the food street, they found out that Mrs. Tang's stall was gone. But the other stalls were still there. It didn't seem like the law enforcement came to chase them away. Plus, this food street was approved by the street administration. Under normal circumstances, no one would come and chase them away. Lin Yi was puzzled. Xiaobo, was it that place? Lin Yi pointed at the place where Mrs. Tang's stall was. Yeah, but where did it go? Boss, wait, I'll ask someone. Kang Xiaobo said and ran to a barbecue stall at the front of the food street. Uncle, can I ask, where did the Tang barbecue stall go? Wasn't it there just now? The owner of the barbecue stall had a look of hatred on his face. It's sold out. I'm closing. You can buy it from me. Then forget it. Your place doesn't taste good. Kang Xiaobo said and left. Fuck. The barbecue stall owner cursed. He was about to explode in anger. Today, almost all of the customers had been snatched away by Tang Ji Barbecue. His first barbecue stall on the food street had actually sold less than 2/3 of the usual. This made him very angry. He didn't care when Tang Barbecue wasn't that popular. But now he was jealous. He had been selling barbecue on the food street for years. He was one of the veterans here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to get the front seat. Yet, he was beaten by a newcomer like Mrs. Tang. This made Zhong Biaoqiao furious. Seeing another student come to Tang Barbecue and say that his barbecue wasn't good, Zhong Biaoqiao's face darkened. It was only the first day. There were still many students who didn't know about it. How would he have any business in a few days? Zhong Biaoqiao felt that he had to do something. Before today, their barbecue was still the best seller on this street. But today, Mrs. Tang had gotten her hands on a new recipe that changed the situation in an instant. Chapter 187. Chapter 187. Tang Yun's best friend Lin Yi wasn't in a rush to give the concert disc to Meng Yaro when he got back to the classroom. They couldn't watch it now anyway, so he decided to wait until he got home. Yu Shu, however, sent him a text asking if he bought the disc. Lin Yi replied that he did. Yu Shu turned around and winked at him. Tang Yun and Liu Xin accompanied Mrs. Tang as they moved the stall to a warehouse nearby. Most of the vendors on the street stored their stalls in this warehouse every day, paying 300 kwai a month for storage. Although it wasn't cheap, it was much less troublesome than pushing things around every day. Tang Yun was happy to see the excitement on her mother's face, but at the same time, she couldn't help but worry. He didn't expect that just changing a formula would be so popular. Originally, the ingredients that he had prepared were not likely to be sold out even at night. But today, before noon, they were all sold out, and there were still people coming to him. This was only the first day. This recipe wasn't much to Lin Yi, but her family still owed him a favor. Tang Yun couldn't deny that. Yun, I didn't think that your Lin Yi would have some skills. This recipe is selling like hotcakes, Liu Xin said jokingly after sending Mrs. Tang off on the bus with Tang Yun. She wanted to test Tang Yun on purpose. She hadn't had the chance to ask Tang Yun about what she saw yesterday morning. She and Tang Yun were best friends, but it was normal for them to not see each other for a day. Mrs. Tang and Tang Yun were too busy today, so Tang Yun called Xinwen over to help. Tang Yun blushed at Xinwen's words. What do you mean, my Lin Yi? I have nothing to do with him. Wen, don't say things like that. Is that so? Liu Xin looked at Tang Yun meaningfully. Yun, are we best friends or not? Yeah. Wen, why are you asking this all of a sudden? Tang Yun's heart tightened subconsciously. Did Xinwen notice something? However, there shouldn't be anything between him and Lin Yi, right? Since we're best friends, why are you still hiding it from me? Xinwen poked Tang Yun's forehead. Yun, have you fallen? Will you tell me the truth? Wen, what do you mean? Tang Yun was getting more and more nervous. What are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Pretend. Keep pretending. Xinwen looked at Tang Yun disappointedly. Yun, I always thought that you and I could talk about anything. But I'm so disappointed. Wen, what are you talking about? I really don't know what's going on. Tang Yun was also anxious. If you have something to say, just say it. Yun, why did you come to school yesterday morning? Xinwen sighed as she stared into Tang Yun's eyes. Tang Yin lowered her head guiltily, not daring to look at Xinwen. Xinwen knew that she'd taken Lin Yi's car yesterday. But how did she know? She'd looked around when she got out of the car to make sure that there was no one around before running away. Yun, why aren't you talking? Xinwen asked aggressively. I took Lin Yi's car, Tang Yin said, but Wen, listen to me, it's not what you think. Then tell me, what's going on? Xinwen let out a breath of relief when Tang Yun admitted it. Tang Yun didn't hide it from her after all. Yesterday, Li Erlin was bothering me at the bus stop. Lin Yi happened to pass by here, so he got out of his car and chased Li Erlin away. Then I took his car to school. Tang Yun explained carefully. Wen, it's actually that simple. There's nothing going on between us. Xinwen also bumped into Li Erlin yesterday, so she started to believe Tang Yun's words. Then why did you take his car? I was panicking and didn't know what to do, so Lin Yi pushed me into his car. Tang Yin explained, feeling wronged. I only realized that it was too late when he started driving. Is that so? You really didn't fall for him? Xinwen let out a breath of relief. I didn't. Tang Yin shook her head after some hesitation. Why would she fall for Lin Yi? That was impossible. That's good. Xinwen nodded. Right, I went to Xiao Fen's house yesterday, and her emotions weren't stable. Her mom said that she kept calling out that person's name these past 2 days, and that she was even hallucinating. Tang Yin sighed after hearing Xinwen's words. She had been helping her mom with the barbecue stall every day, so she didn't have time to visit Xiao Fen at night. She could only ask Xin Wen to go over, but it seemed like something serious had happened to Xiao Fen. Tang Yin was worried, but there was nothing she could do. I'll go over tonight. I suggest that Aunt Kui take Xiao Fen to the psychiatry department at the hospital. Xin Wen said. But Aunt Kui's family situation is pretty much the same as ours, and she spent quite a lot of money on Xiao Fen's medical bills. Where would she find the money to go to the psychiatry department? That person didn't come back to visit Xiao Fen? Tang Yin was a little indignant. Xiao Fen wouldn't have ended up like this if it wasn't for that person. Even if Xiao Fen wasn't a virgin anymore, with her looks, it wouldn't be hard for her to find a better boyfriend. No, hoping that bastard Kang Mingming would come back to visit Xiao Fen? Unless the sun rises from the west. Liu Xinwen sneered, if it wasn't for Xiaofen stopping me, I would have castrated that bastard Kang Jiaoming. Tang Yin blushed. Her best friend's words were really powerful. She didn't know what to say. Tang Yin was too embarrassed to say something like that. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go back and study. Xin Wen threw away the unhappiness in her mind and walked back to school with Tang Yin. He had to go with Kang Xiaobo to ask Tang Yin about going to her house during the weekend, so Lin Yi couldn't go back with Meng Yaro and Yu Shu. He sent them a text to tell them that he had something to do with Kang Xiaobo after school. Meng Yaro didn't mind and replied with a got it before leaving with Yu Shu. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was slowly packing his things. He only quickened his movements after Meng Yaro and Yu Shu left. Chapter 188. Bullying people that won't happen. Lin Yi wasn't in a rush. They were selling like hotcakes at noon, so they'd definitely prepare more for the night. How could they sell out so quickly? That's true. Kang Xiaobo calmed down after listening to Lin Yi's analysis. The main reason Lin Yi didn't want Meng Yaro and Yu Shu to see him looking for Tang Yun. Otherwise, the miss of the Chu family might throw a tantrum again. Lin Yi's attitude was that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble until the two of them left. Lin Yi glanced at the corner of the street not too far away after leaving the school gates. He only calmed down when he didn't see Forbert's Bentley, and walked towards the food street with Kang Xiaobo. Hey, boss, it can't be that popular, right? Why are there so many people? Kang Xiaobo pointed at the food street, surprised. Even the people from the other stalls are buying Tongin's barbecue? Lin Yi frowned. There were a lot of stalls surrounding Tongin's barbecue stall. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't believe that they were buying Tongin's barbecue. Tang Yin might be in trouble, let's go check it out. Lin Yi said as he quickened his steps. As expected, a man's loud voice could be heard as they got closer. I say, boss lady, isn't that a little too much? We're all from the same street, and you're stealing our business like that. The speaker was naturally Zhong Biaojian. He'd been pissed off that Tongin's barbecue was more popular than his own, and he wasn't willing to lose his business just like that. He'd contacted a couple of other barbecue vendors, planning to give Mrs. Tang a hard time at night. As far as Zhong Biaojian, Mrs. Tang was no different from a widowed mother. A bedridden man was no different from a cripple. Her family was easy to bully. If he threatened her, she would definitely give in. Big bro, let's talk this out. It's not like we're trying to steal your business. Mrs. Tang was a little scared when she saw so many people helping Zhong Biaoqiao. None of the onlooking vendors said they were supporting Zhong Biaoqiao, but none of them spoke up for her either. You didn't steal my business. If you set up a stall here at noon, all the students will go to your stall to buy things. Who are we going to sell to? Another old woman from the barbecue stall spoke up. You call this not stealing business? Are you waiting for us to starve to death before you consider that you didn't steal our business? That's right. You sold more than all of us combined. Are you going to let us live? Another thin and tall man also began to speak. Mrs. Tang didn't expect that she would offend so many people while her business was doing well. She didn't know what to do. My mother is doing business properly. How is this stealing your business? Tang Yin was a little pissed off as she stood up for her mother. Our food tastes good, and the customers are willing to buy from us. How is that our fault? If you want your business to be good, then you can improve the recipe. Well said, little girl. Zhong Biaoqiao laughed. We want to improve the recipe as well. Since you've said it, then I won't hold back. Hand over the recipe, and we'll all learn from it. Then we'll call it even. The recipe belongs to us. Why should we give it to you? Tang Yin wasn't expecting Zhong Biaoqiao to be this unreasonable. What advantage would they have if they gave him the recipe? Why should we? Because you stole our business. We want the recipe, and that's what the people want. Isn't that right, brothers and sisters? Zhong Biaoqiao said to the people beside him. Yeah. Why don't you give us the recipe? We can all earn money together. It's not good to keep everything to yourself. The old barbecue woman agreed. It's fine if you don't give us the recipe. You can change it back tomorrow, and we'll be the same. The tall and skinny man said darkly. What if we don't give you the recipe, and we don't change it? Tang Yin was on the verge of crying. What kind of bully was this? A bunch of people bullying her and her mother? Was there no law? Don't give it. You won't change it. Zhong Biaoqiao laughed coldly. That's not up to you. I don't think you can come to this food street tomorrow. Tang Yin's eyes were red. She was on the verge of tearing up. How could they bully her like that? Business was good, so they couldn't come here. Yin. Mrs. Tang was afraid that Tang Yin would do something irrational. She hugged Tang Yin and pointed at Zhong Biaoqiao with a trembling finger. Are you bullying us because we don't have a man? What's so great about bullying us? They wouldn't be this arrogant if their lover wasn't bedridden, right? Don't say it like that. This is what the people want, Zhong Biaoqiao said. He was bullying Tang Yin because she didn't have a man in her family. He knew about Tang Yin's family a long time ago. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so arrogant today. Mrs. Tang hugged Tang Yin, shaking with anger. Why was it so hard to do business? Bullying them because they saw that their family was making money? Wasn't this too much? Tang Yin was annoyed that she wasn't a boy. Even if she was, they wouldn't be so reckless, would they? Tang Yin looked at the crowd of people standing around, not bothering to meddle in their business. Tang Yin felt despair. Her family had just gotten better, and they had new hope. Was it going back to how it used to be? Xiong my ass. Lin Yi pushed through the crowd and rushed in. Wasn't this Zhong Biaoqiao a bit too much? Bullying Tang Yin and her mother? What was he thinking? Didn't he know that he was protecting the mother and daughter? The peddler that Lin Yi pushed away was about to yell at him, but quickly shut his mouth when he saw Lin Yi's face. This was the new young thug from First Middle. Even someone as powerful as Ruoming couldn't make a sound after getting slapped in the face by him. Who would want to mess with him? Lin Yi grabbed Zhong Biaoqiao by the collar and lifted him up. You're the leader, aren't you? Who the fuck? Zhong Biaoqiao wanted to yell at the person who grabbed his clothes, but shivered when he saw Lin Yi's face. He had quite an impression of Lin Yi. He'd slapped Zhu Ruoming until he didn't even dare let out a fart. Someone like that was truly ruthless. Zhong Biaoqiao used to sell seafood, but Zhu Ruoming got a stomach ache and came to smash his stall the next day, beating him up so badly that he couldn't get out of bed for a couple of days. He didn't dare sell seafood anymore after he recovered, switching to selling barbecue. But he was still very afraid of Zhu Ruoming. It wasn't a secret that Zhu Ruoming had a big brother who was the head of the gangsters in the north of the city. Zhong Biaoqiao didn't dare do anything after finding out. It was just a game for him to beat him up. Chapter 189. Smashing them, little brother. What's the matter? Zhong Biaoqiao stuttered. He was no longer as domineering as before, and his expression was a little ugly. The barbecue woman and the tall skinny man obviously knew who Lin Yi was, the one who'd slapped Zhu Ruoming in the face last week at the food street. Who didn't know him? Who didn't know of such an all-powerful character? And that follower of his. Biaoqiao's eyes narrowed as he looked at Kang Xiaobo, remembering the student he'd talked to at lunch. Wasn't that Kang Xiaobo? He was Lin Yi's follower. Then they and Tang barbecue. Biaoqiao suddenly remembered a tragic reality. The reason why Lin Yi had slapped Zhu Ruoming last time was all because of Tang Yin. And who was Tang Yin? She was the daughter of the owner of Tang Barbecue. Was Lin Yi here to stand up for them this time? Biao Qiao froze at the thought of that possibility, his face draining of blood. How could he have overlooked something so important? He'd thought that Tang Barbecue didn't have a man anymore, and that he could bully them all he wanted, but the man from their house was a fierce one. You want the recipe, right? Lin Yi felt pity for these small merchants who worked so hard to earn money every day, but that wasn't a reason for them to bully people. Tang Yin's mother earned her money with her own hands, without stealing or robbing. These people, on the other hand, were making trouble for Mrs. Tang when they saw her making money, demanding the recipe from her. It was a behavior that infuriated Lin Yi. Ah, no. I don't want it. I'm just joking. Biao Qiao didn't dare ask for it anymore. As far as he was concerned, rich young masters like these would be beating him up for nothing, let alone Zhu Ruoming, who had a gangster brother. How could he be more powerful than Zhu Ruoming? I gave you the recipe. If you want it, I can give you one. Lin Yi let go of Zhong Biaoqiao. Zhong Biaoqiao lost his balance and fell to the ground. No, I really don't want to. If Zhong Biaoqiao was still thinking about the formula, his brain would be punctured. No, what are you doing? Are you guys just watching the show? Lin Yi smiled coldly as he glanced at the vendors who had been watching the show. Towards these people, Lin Yi didn't have too much resentment. Zhong Biaoqiang was their old man here, and they couldn't possibly not support Zhong Biaoqiang and speak up for Tang Yun's family. So Lin Yi didn't think about looking for trouble with them, but today was enough to scare them. Otherwise, they would think that Tang Yun's family had no one and could bully them as they pleased. These peddlers were frightened by Lin Yi's gaze. They quickly dispersed and went about their own business. This was not a good show. If they didn't handle it well, they would invite trouble for themselves. You two, don't leave. Lin Yi pointed at the old barbecue woman and the skinny man who were about to leave with the crowd. No. It's not our fault, it's Zhong Biaoqiao's idea. The old barbecue woman had already extinguished her anger. She was obviously someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Seeing that Lin Yi was ruthless, she immediately became careful. Yes, it's Zhong Biaoqiao's idea. We were just called here by him. The skinny man said. Do what he tells you to do. So you'll do whatever I tell you to do? Lin Yi asked back. Aye. The old barbecue woman didn't know what Lin Yi meant, but she still followed along. Bro, what do you want us to do? You two don't sell barbecue tomorrow. Change your job. No problem, right? Lin Yi rolled his eyes and changed their job. Aye. The old barbecue woman and the skinny man looked at each other. They wanted to object, but they didn't dare to. Who knew if Lin Yi would suddenly turn against them? Xiaobo. After Lin Yi said that, he ignored the two accomplices and called out to Kang Xiaobo. Boss, I'm here. You called me. Kang Xiaobo ran over excitedly. Awesome, it's really awesome. Although Kang Xiaobo was just a follower, he followed behind Lin Yi and watched the whole process. It made his blood boil. You go and smash his stall. Lin Yi pointed at Zhong Biaoqiao and said to Kang Xiaobo. Okay. Kang Xiaobo nodded and walked to Zhong Biaoqiao's stall. Under everyone's gaze, he kicked Zhong Biaoqiao's stall and flipped it over. Charcoal, skewers, money boxes, and everything else were scattered all over the ground. Kang Xiaobo was still not satisfied. He stepped on the barbecue rack again and again until it was deformed. It was basically impossible to use it again. Zhong Biaoqiao's heart was bleeding, but he didn't dare to say no. Smashing a stall was fine, but he didn't want to smash himself again. Last time, Zhu Ruoming could beat him up so badly that he couldn't get out of bed for a few days. This Lin Yi. Zhong Biaoqiao broke into a cold sweat just thinking about it. All right. Lin Yi waved at Kang Xiaobo, indicating that he could come back. Then Lin Yi turned to Zhong Biaoqiao and said, this time it's smashing a stall, next time it'll be smashing people. This place of yours is pretty good. You don't mind if I give it to Tang Ji tomorrow, right? I don't. Zhong Biaoqiao could only nod. What else could he say? The other party had already made it very clear that this time it was smashing a stall, next time it would be smashing people. If he said no, the other party would probably start smashing people until he agreed, Since you're quite obedient, I'll give you the spot at Tangji. Sell something else tomorrow. Lin Yi changed Zhong Biaoqiao's line of work. Is that okay with you? Okay. I'll change. I'll definitely change. Zhong Biaoqiao nodded. The barbecue rack was smashed, and he couldn't do it even if he wanted to. It wasn't a bad thing to change his line of work. Even if Lin Yi asked him to sell barbecue now, he wouldn't dare. What if he stole customers from Tangji and Lin Yi came back to smash his stall? Who could stand that? Xiaobo, when you're free tomorrow, come and see if they've changed their line of work. If they haven't, just smash it, Lin Yi ordered Kang Xiaobo. No problem, boss. Leave it to me. I'm good at this. Kang Xiaobo nodded and looked at the barbecue lady and the tall, thin man with a smile. The last bit of hope for these two had been shattered. If they didn't want to be smashed tomorrow, they'd better change their line of work. The two of them were a little regretful that they'd listened to Zhong Biaoqiao's lies, saying that they would split the recipe evenly among the three of them. Now that even their line of work had been changed, what was the point of having the recipe? Of course, Lin Yi wasn't really going to let Kang Xiaobo patrol. He was just trying to scare them. He didn't have that much time. Lin Yi didn't sympathize with Zhong Biaoqiao at all. He'd reaped what he sowed. Chapter 190. The mind of a girl with Lin Yi's skills. Bullying these vendors was a bit of an overreaction. But Biaogan had crossed Lin Yi's bottom line. Lin Yi wasn't too sure about Tang Yin's family situation, but they definitely weren't rich. Tang Yin's father wasn't here, however, and that gave Lin Yi a few guesses. Biaogan was obviously bullying people. If that was the case, then Lin Yi had no choice but to bully him a little, to let him know that bullying the weak wasn't as easy as it seemed. What are you still sitting here for? Waiting for me to treat you to dinner? Lin Yi asked, looking at Biaogan on the ground. Biaogan squeezed out a smile as he climbed up from the ground. Of course not, of course not. I'll go now, I'll go now. With that, Biaogan sprinted away, not daring to keep his stall anymore as he picked up the money box and left the food street. As for the awe-inspiring and domineering barbecue woman and the feminine, tall and thin man, they were also quietly packing up their stalls. Tomorrow, they would be changing professions. Auntie, are you all right? Lin Yi asked as he walked over to Mrs. Tang, who didn't know what to do. Mrs. Tang couldn't react to the sudden turn of events. I'm fine, Mrs. Tang said, recovering from her shock. Biaogan's overbearing face was still fresh in her mind, and now he was running away with his tail between his legs. It was all because of this kid in front of her. So what if Biaogan was overbearing? There was someone even more overbearing than him. Tang Yin lowered her head, her emotions complicated. She didn't know what to say. As a top student, she didn't approve of Lin Yi's way of handling things, but she had to admit that Lin Yi's way of handling things was the most appropriate. Biaogan wouldn't dare bully her family anymore, but why would Lin Yi do this? Why would he help her family? Tang Yun knew very well that Lin Yi was trying to get on her good side and pursue her, using this method to move her heart. Although it was a cliché method, Tang Yun had to admit that it was effective. At least, in her eyes, Lin Yi wasn't that despicable anymore. Even if he was despicable, it was towards those who were even more despicable. He just barged into her life like that. Tang Yin wanted to get rid of Lin Yi, but she couldn't. How am I going to face Lin Yi in the future? Continue to ridicule him? Tang Yun knew that she couldn't do it. She wasn't a heartless person, and Lin Yi had done so much. No matter what it was for, he had helped her and her family, so Tang Yun could only choose to escape. Lin Yi's identity made her worry. Thinking of Xiao Fen's painful lesson, Tang Yun's heart once again closed up. Lin Yi looked at the silent Tang Yun and didn't mind. Auntie, I just came over after school to ask when we're going there this weekend. Tang Yun didn't say it clearly before, so I wanted to confirm it. Saturday morning, come whenever you're free. Our house is at the third door of the slums, Grass Alley. Mrs. Tang recovered from her shock, but her face was full of gratitude. Lin Yi, thank you so much for today. If you didn't come, we wouldn't know what to do. We'd be bullied. Haha, it won't happen again. Lin Yi smiled. Auntie, I'll be leaving with Xiaobo first. See you on Saturday. No, sit here. I'll cook something for you guys. Mrs. Tang naturally wouldn't let Lin Yi leave just like that. She had to thank him, no matter what. The more Mrs. Tang looked at Lin Yi, the more she liked himself. This young man had the arrogance of a rich young master, but he was reasonable. He was scary when he was domineering, but he was usually very easygoing with people he was familiar with. Not today, it's getting late. Let's go on Saturday, we'll be there on time. Lin Yi's phone vibrated. It was probably a message from Meng Yaro or Yu Shu, so Lin Yi had to get back as soon as possible. All right then. Mrs. Tang let go of Lin Yi after seeing how insistent Lin Yi was. Yin, go send your classmate off. Okay. Tang Yun nodded unwillingly, but didn't refuse this time. She lowered her head and walked in front of Lin Yi without a word. Ah. Lin Yi smiled faintly and turned to leave with Kang Xiaobo. Tang Yun followed behind them, not knowing what she was thinking. All right, you don't have to send me off if you don't want to. You can go back. Lin Yi looked at Tang Yun, amused. I didn't. Tang Yun hemphed. Today. Thank you, I saw it on the way, that's all. If it were someone else, I'd probably care too. Lin Yi said, using the word maybe. In truth, Lin Yi really wouldn't care if it were someone else. If he cared about everything, then there was no need for him to stay here anymore. He might as well become an Ultraman or a Spider-Man. Tang Yun, of course, didn't believe that Lin Yi said it was on the way. If it wasn't for her, why would a young master like him care about something like this? But the more she owed Lin Yi, the more uneasy she felt. Do you really want to be friends with me? Tang Yun suddenly raised her head to look at Lin Yi. Ah! Tang Yun's reaction surprised Lin Yi. He was surprised at Tang Yun's sudden question. In fact, it took a lot of courage for Tang Yun to ask this question. Lin Yi had interfered in her family's life. It was impossible for Tang Yun not to have any thoughts about it. She wanted to confirm what Lin Yi's goal was. However, when Tang Yun asked this question, although it looked like she was in the right, she was actually very guilty. A girl asking this kind of question made Tang Yun's face burn. Fortunately, it was night time, and Lin Yi shouldn't be able to see it. Tang Yun was nervous, so when Lin Yi said Tang Yun took it as an acknowledgement of her question. Do your parents know? Will they agree? Tang Yun didn't wait for Lin Yi to answer and continued to ask. To be honest, Tang Yun was also nervous. Tang Yun saw what Lin Yi did for her family. She didn't know how she felt about Lin Yi. She hated him, but there was also a special feeling, my parents. Lin Yi paused again. Who were his parents? He didn't know either. Old Lin said he was an orphan. Tang Yun took Lin Yi's days as hesitation. Tang Yun's fragile heart tightened, and the budding feelings disappeared in an instant. Chapter 191. More positive. Tang Yin turned around and ran back to her mother, disappearing into the night in the blink of an eye. Lin Yi came back to his senses and looked at Lin Yi, who was already far away. He sighed softly. Did he fall in love with this girl? Lin Yi didn't know if he'd matured, or if he'd become impulsive. He wouldn't have thought like this if it were a year ago. Had the comfort of his life changed him? It seemed like he'd have to talk to old man Lin about it. Boss, what's wrong with you? Kang Xiaobo, who'd been standing on the sidelines, couldn't hold it in anymore. What are you spacing out for? Tang Yin asked you if you wanted to be friends with her, and you just spaced out. Kang Xiaobo had a look of exasperation on his face, a typical eunuch panicking even though the emperor wasn't panicking. She just wanted to confirm my feelings, nothing else. Lin Yi shook his head. Let's go, stop looking. Boss, I really don't know what to say. It was such a good opportunity, and you didn't take it. Kang Xiaobo said as he lowered his head, as if it was his own business. There'll be more opportunities. Lin Yi said as he patted the back of Kang Xiaobo's head. Let's go, I need to get back. He looked at the text on his phone as he got in the cab. It was indeed from Meng Yaro, asking him when he was coming home. It seemed that the miss wasn't as cold as she looked on the surface. After spending some time with her, Lin Yi had gotten a good grasp of Meng Yao's personality. She was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She had a bit of a temper, but she didn't really see herself as a follower or a servant. It was also the main reason why Lin Yi had accepted the job. Who knew how many people would fight for the chance to serve two misses? Lin Yi, naturally, knew that. He replied to Meng Yarrow, telling her that he'd be home soon. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he shook his head after a while. She still had the demeanor of a miss, after all. Lin Yi paid the taxi fare and returned to the villa. Forbert had already given him the keys, so Lin Yi didn't need Meng Yarrow to open the door for him. There was no one in the living room. Evidently Meng Yarrow and Yushu had gone upstairs. General Wei Wu was crouching lazily at the foot of the stairs, lowering his head to continue his nap when he saw Lin Yi. Lin Yi put his bag down and walked to the dining room. Li Fu was already there with food, evidently indicating that Yushu and Meng Yarrow had already eaten. Ah! Lin Yi couldn't help but chuckle as he looked at the dishes on the table. The two misses had taken out some of the dishes today, and even then, they didn't finish the food since they weren't big eaters. The food in the sealed box, on the other hand, hadn't been touched at all. It was probably for Lin Yi. He didn't know which miss it was, but his treatment had improved. Yushu. He wasn't too bad with her, but this girl. Lin Yi shook his head. It was already good enough that she didn't put the food that Meng Yarrow had eaten back into the box, pretending that it hadn't been touched at all. It had to be Meng Yarrow. The miss wasn't too bad to him, after all. Lin Yi thought as he scooped a bowl of rice and started wolfing it down. After dinner, Lin Yi cleaned the box and put the concert disc he bought in the afternoon on the coffee table before returning to his room. Lin Yi was about to give the old man a call to talk about the situation here. After closing the door, Lin Yi dialed old Lin's number. Under normal circumstances, Lin Yi wouldn't contact old Lin when he was on a mission, and he'd only let him know that he was safe when the mission was over. The phone rang a few times before old Lin's vulgar voice came through. "Hello. Old man, it's Yi," Lin Yi said after a moment of silence. "Oh, it's Yi. How's the mission going?" Old Lin was evidently drinking, and Lin Yi could even hear the sound of him eating peanuts. Lin Yi didn't know what to say at the mention of the mission. "I say, old man, what kind of mission did you give me? I'm just following the miss around like a follower every day. Are you trying to make me a high-class servant? You'll know what the mission is after some time," old Lin said, evidently not wanting to waste his breath on this topic. After some time? How long? That was Lin Yi's main concern, and it was also a prelude to what he was going to say next. "Haha, as long as you want. There's no time limit. It all depends on how fast you finish it," old Lin said nonchalantly. "As long as I want." "Really?" Lin Yi hesitated for a moment before speaking his mind. "Old man, I kind of want to stay here." "Oh, you want to stay there already? That's great." Old Lin was a little excited at Lin Yi's words. "That means your mission is progressing well. It's a good start." "What do you mean?" Lin Yi was a little confused. What did this have to do with the progress of the mission? "It's nothing. If you think it's good, then don't come back. I'll settle down there in a few years. You can build a foundation there first, have a few kids, and I'll be a grandfather." Old Lin seemed to approve of Lin Yi staying in Songshan, even more so than Lin Yi himself. Ah! Lin Yi thought he'd have to spend a lot of effort to convince old Lin to let him start a peaceful life. But he didn't even get to say anything, and old Lin was telling him to have kids already? What was the meaning of this? Was he planning to retire? "I say, old man. What about the missions in the future?" Lin Yi was a little suspicious. Was this the same stingy old man he knew? Giving him dangerous missions just to earn some money? Missions? "There's no more missions in the future, this is the last one," old Lin said. "Of course, if you want to exercise your muscles, you can take on a few missions, that's..." Lin Yi wondered if old Lin had drunk too much. At first, Lin Yi was very hesitant on how to tell the old man about it. After all, he didn't belong to this kind of life before, but the old man was already telling him to have kids before he even said anything. Lin Yi was a little sweaty, but one of his worries had been resolved just like that. He'd go hit on Tang Yun tomorrow. He didn't have to worry about anything anymore. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't touch the two misses of his family, Lin Yi wouldn't have gone so far. Is there anything else? Widow Wang from the village entrance is here, and I want to catch up with her. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up, bye. Old Lin didn't wait for Lin Yi to say anything before hanging up. Chapter 192. Chapter 192, Dilapidated Slums. Lin Yi drove Yushu's yellow beetle to Kang Xiaobo after making sure that Meng Yaro and Yushu weren't going out. Forbert had already gotten the driver's license, and he'd given it to Lin Yi the day before. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of getting mugged by the police now. The two misses were watching the Blu-ray of Xu Shahan's concert, the one Lin Yi had bought from the bookstore. They wouldn't be going out for a walk. Lin Yi gave Kang Xiaobo a call before leaving the house. The cheapest knockoff phone these days was only 1 or 200 kuai, and it was normal for high schoolers to have their own phones. Tang Yin was probably the only one who didn't have one. Xiaobo, where are you? Lin Yi asked. I'm at home, not leaving yet. Boss, ready to go? Kang Xiaobo had been looking forward to this day for a week now. Going to the school beauty's house for dinner was a rare honor, and so Kang Xiaobo had woken up early, waiting for Lin Yi's call. Where's your house? I'll come pick you up. Lin Yi said. You'll come pick me up? Kang Xiaobo blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi was getting at. My house is on Ningxia Street. Boss, which way is it? If it's not on the way, why don't we meet at the slums? Ningxia Street. Wait for me then. Lin Yi said before hanging up. Yushu's car had a GPS system installed, and Lin Yi keyed in Ningxia Street and started driving. Ningxia Street was actually on Lin Yi's way to school every day, and it was pretty easy to find. It didn't take long before Lin Yi parked the car near the bus stop. Lin Yi called Kang Xiaobo and told him that he was waiting for him at the station. Not long after, Lin Yi saw Kang Xiaobo, who was dressed very handsomely, running to the station platform. He looked around as he ran, obviously looking for Lin Yi. Xiaobo, here. Lin Yi opened the front passenger door and waved at Kang Xiaobo. Boss. Kang Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi and his car in surprise. He quickly ran over and asked, Is this your car? Hee. Lin Yi laughed. He didn't confirm or deny it. For this kind of thing, it would be difficult to explain too much. It was better not to explain at all. Sure enough, Kang Xiaobo thought that Lin Yi had acquiesced. He got in the car and said, Boss, I didn't expect your family to be so well off. I thought you came from a poor village. It's not too bad. Lin Yi told the truth. If the missions were as his old man said, only a few hundred or a few thousand, then his family would only be okay at best. If it were the market price, then his family would be a millionaire a long time ago, or even a billionaire. Of course, Lin Yi didn't want to be too calculative with his old man. If the old man was a miser, then so be it. He didn't lack food or drinks, and he'd just treat it as earning some money for his old man's retirement. But boss, why'd you buy a car like this? It looks like a girl's car. Look at the cushions, the interior. Kang Xiaobo said as he looked at the interior of the car. Ha! Lin Yi smiled. This car was Yushu's, of course it was feminine, eh? All of a sudden, Xiaobo's eyes stopped on an ornament on the rearview mirror. That's Yushu? Boss, no way. You have a crush on her? Kang Xiaobo's eyes went wide as he stared at the decoration in disbelief. It was a small photo frame, and it was Yushu in it. Hey! Lin Yi didn't notice it before, but now that Kang Xiaobo mentioned it, he looked at the decoration. He was speechless. This decoration. It's the owner's. Boss, I know. Kang Xiaobo smiled as if he knew everything. Boss, I'm a man too, I know. It's fine, I won't tell Tang Yun. Lin Yi took it off and tossed it into the drawer on the passenger seat. Yeah, hurry up and hide it. It'll be bad if Tang Yun sees it. Xiaobo nodded in agreement. Lin Yi sweated and almost crashed the car. Slums referred to the single-story houses in the built-up areas of the city. The houses were old, the quality was poor, the average floor space was small, the infrastructure wasn't complete, the transportation was inconvenient, the security and fire hazard were high, and the environment was dirty, messy, and bad. Many developing cities had such shanty towns. Of course, not all of the shanty towns were bungalows. There were also some buildings, but these buildings were 3-story red brick houses. They were not much better than bungalows. There were no gas pipes, no network engineering, and so on. Some didn't even have a kitchen vent. Lin Yi's old house was mostly this kind of dilapidated house, so he didn't think much of it. Kang Xiaobo, on the other hand, had only passed by the slums before and had never seen it. He was completely shocked when he saw it today. He didn't expect Tang Yun to live in such a terrible environment. Dirty coal piles, firewood piles, smelly garbage, and smelly drains. It was a horrible environment. And in this horrible environment, Tang Yun, the commoner beauty of first middle school, was born. Boss, this environment. Kang Xiaobo couldn't help but close the window. He couldn't stand the smell. The place I used to live was pretty much like this. Lin Yi said with a smile, not thinking much of it at all. There was one more thing he didn't say. It was the battlefield, much worse than this. He could hide in the gutters and swamps for days. Lin Yi found grass alley and turned the car in. But after turning in, it was difficult to drive in. Every door was full of junk. Lin Yi had no choice but to park the car at the entrance of the alleyway. The residents in the alleyway looked at the brightly colored, obviously expensive car, a little surprised. Under normal circumstances, there were very few cars coming to Shanty Town. In addition to taxes, there were almost no residents here who could afford a car. Since they could afford a car, they did not live here. They had already bought a house in a better place. Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo got out of the car, locked the car, and followed the number on the door to Tang Yun's house. The third door should be here. Lin Yi looked at the dilapidated door and sighed slightly. He guessed that Tang Yun's family's condition was poor, but in this slums, Tang Yun's family's condition should be below average. Tang Yun's yard was obviously a lot more dilapidated than the others, and it probably hadn't been repaired in a long time. He didn't know if it was because of the lack of time, or because of the lack of money, but Lin Yi felt a little sad looking at it. Chapter 193. A photo. Lin Yi knocked on the door, and Tang Yin's voice came from the yard after a while. Who is it? It's me, Lin Yi said. There was an obvious silence on the other side of the door. Then, with a creak, the door opened, revealing Tang Yun's beautiful face. There was no smile on it, only coldness. Come in. Lin Yi paused. Tang Yun's attitude wasn't good to him before, but she was honest and straightforward. She'd throw a tantrum at him and step on his feet. Today, however, Tang Yun's eyes were filled with coldness. Kang Xiaobo didn't notice that as he followed Lin Yi into Tang Yun's yard. He pointed at the mess in the yard, surprised at the sight. Boss, look. Where's the cherry tree? People who lived in single-story houses usually planted things in their yards. Almost every house in Lin Yi's hometown had that, so he wasn't too curious about it. Kang Xiaobo grew up in the city, so he didn't see much of these things. He was excited, but curious at the same time. Yin, is that your classmate? Mrs. Tang's voice came from the house. It was an old brick house, and it was impossible to tell the age of the house. The house was made of red bricks, and there was no cement on the outside. The windows were sealed with plastic sheets, and the door was covered in rust. But in this shabby environment, there lived a girl full of sunshine, the commoner beauty of first middle school. Yeah. Tang Yin replied faintly, her tone no longer carrying any anger or dissatisfaction towards Lin Yi. It was as if she was talking to a stranger. Lin Yi's here, come in, Mrs. Tang said happily as she walked out of the house to greet Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo. Auntie. Lin Yi greeted as he entered the house with Kang Xiaobo. It was a typical old-fashioned room, with a small kitchen and a small room behind the small kitchen. Tang Yin's room was probably there. Come in and sit. Mrs. Tang called Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo in before turning to Tang Yin. Yin, you keep Xue Yuan company, I'll go prepare the barbecue. Oh. Tang Yin nodded, not objecting as she sat on the chair opposite Lin Yi. The sofa was limited, and Tang Yin didn't want to squeeze with Lin Yi, so she chose to sit opposite Lin Yi. Mrs. Tang went out to work, And Tang Yin didn't say anything as well. She sat on the chair, resting her chin on her hand as she stared at the floor, deep in thought. Lin Yi didn't know what was wrong with Tang Yin today. She treated him so strangely, like he was a stranger. Sitting there awkwardly wasn't a good idea, so Lin Yi tried to start a conversation. "Is Uncle in the house?" Lin Yi heard noises from inside the house. The door was closed, but with Lin Yi's hearing, it didn't escape his ears. "My dad's injured at work, he can't get up from the bed," Tang Yin explained. "Injured at work? Is it serious?" Lin Yi was startled. He'd imagined all sorts of situations for Tang Yin's family, but he didn't expect Tang Yin's father to be injured and bedridden. He's saving money for surgery later this year. If the surgery is successful, he'll be able to recover, Tang Yin said faintly, as if she was talking to a stranger. "Injured at work? Then why didn't the company pay?" Kang Xiaobo interrupted. "What can we do if the factory owner doesn't want to pay?" Tang Yin seemed to have accepted her fate. She was helpless against the factory owner who didn't want to pay. She wasn't angry anymore. "I'll go see Uncle Tang." Lin Yi stood up and wanted to go inside, but Tang Yin stopped him. "My dad is resting, don't go." Tang Yin didn't let Lin Yi in. She didn't want to have anything to do with Lin Yi anymore, so naturally, she didn't want him to go inside the house. If she owed Lin Yi another favor, how could she pay it back? Tang Yin wasn't ignorant of the ways of the world. On the contrary, her father's incident made her and her mother suffer the coldness of the world, and they had a deeper understanding of it. Why would Lin Yi help her family? In her family, other than herself, what else could be valued by Lin Yi? In the end, when they couldn't pay back the favor they owed him, they could only pay it back with their bodies. Lin Yi only wanted to see how Mr. Tang's injury was, whether there was a better way to treat it without surgery, but since Tang Yin was against it, Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry. Kang Xiaobo didn't want to be a third wheel. He walked to the side while Lin Yi and Tang Yin were talking. He looked around the room, and his eyes suddenly fell on a photo in the bookshelf. There were 3 girls in the photo. One was Tang Yin, and the other was Tang Yin's best friend, Liu Xinwen. Kang Xiaobo had some impression of her, but there was another girl that made Kang Xiaobo's eyes light up. Of the 3 girls in the photo, Tang Yin was undoubtedly the prettiest and the most outstanding one, but the other girl was only a little bit weaker than her. She looked so soft and weak, and it made people want to protect her with just one look. Who was this person? Kang Xiaobo's heart started to move again. As for Tang Yin, Kang Xiaobo had completely given up. As long as Lin Yi could catch up with him, he would be satisfied, but this girl, this photo? Kang Xiaobo couldn't help but ask. Tang Yin turned her head towards Kang Xiaobo's voice and saw the photo in the bookshelf. 2 of my best friends. I know this Liu Xinwen, she's also from our school, but this? Kang Xiaobo hesitated. Although it was rude to ask directly, he didn't want to give up. Her name is Lan Fen, she's a good friend I grew up with. Tang Yin clearly didn't want to talk about this anymore. She only briefly introduced Lan Fen and didn't say anything else. Kang Xiaobo replied with an "oh" and silently remembered the name. Lan Fen, it sounded pretty good. He just didn't know where he was studying now. She definitely wasn't from first school. If she was, there was no way he wouldn't know her. Although Lan Fen wasn't one of the 3 school beauties, she was definitely a popular girl in the school. She could be ranked in the top 10 of the girls in first school. Kang Xiaobo wanted to ask about Lan Fen's current situation, but Tang Yin didn't seem to want to talk about it. Chapter 194. Chapter 194. The girl who jumped off a building. Lin Yi, you eat with your classmates first, there's still a lot left. Mrs. Tang said before leaving the house. Mom, I'll go help you. Tang Yun said awkwardly, wanting to go accompany her mother. Yin, you eat with your classmates, get some drinks and chat with them. I'll be fine here. Mrs. Tang said with a smile. I'm not busy here, there's so many customers at the food street, I can handle it all by myself. Oh. Tang Yun pouted unhappily. Eat with them? Drink with them and chat with them? Wouldn't I be the 3rd escort then? Kang Xiaobo had been looking forward to the barbecue, but his mind was elsewhere. His eyes kept glancing at the photo on the bookshelf as he thought about the girl named Lan Fen. He couldn't help but ask, Tang Yun, why don't we invite Liu Xinwen and Lan Fen to eat together? Kang Xiaobo had put Liu Xinwen in front of him, but it was just a facade. He had ulterior motives. Liu Xinwen was a classmate from first middle, so it was only natural that he would be more familiar with her. Kang Xiaobo had put her in front of him, and Lan Fen was the main focus. Xiaobo felt his blood rush to his head the moment he saw Lan Fen. He knew that he wasn't good enough for Tang Yin, and he didn't fantasize about it, but Lan Fen. Xiaobo really did want her. Tang Yun frowned, not knowing why Kang Xiaobo was so interested in the girl in the photo. I'll treat them to dinner alone. You can eat if you want, or sit if you don't. Kang Xiaobo couldn't help but laugh dryly. Of course, I'll eat. It smells so good. Lin Yi could roughly guess what Kang Xiaobo was thinking. Lin Yi had seen Lan Fen in the photo from the corner of his eyes. She was a beauty, but not as pretty as Tang Yun, but she was still outstanding. No wonder Kang Xiaobo was tempted. Lin Yi looked at the barbecue on the table. He had to admit that Mrs. Tang's control of the heat was pretty good. Coupled with his own ingredients, it was hard for the business to not be booming. She was just about to pick one up to try when the door was pushed open. A girl barged in and yelled, Tang Yin, bad news. Fen wants to jump off the building. Come and help me persuade her. It was Tang Yun's best friend, Liu Xinwen. She didn't notice that Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo were in the room when she came in, but when she finished talking, she realized that there were two other people in the room. Especially when she saw Lin Yi, her expression turned ugly. 2 days ago, she had just told Tang Yun about Lin Yi, and Tang Yun swore that she had nothing to do with Lin Yi, but in the blink of an eye, Lin Yi appeared in Tang Yun's house. Liu Xinwen sighed. What a silly girl who was blinded by love. She couldn't believe Tang Yun's explanation of sitting in Lin Yi's car. What? Fen wants to jump off the building? Where? Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat after hearing Liu Xinwen's words. She stood up and was about to rush outside. In the alley, in front of their house, Liu Xinwen said hurriedly, let's go and persuade her. At this time, Mrs. Tang also rushed in. She was in the middle of barbecuing when she saw Liu Xinwen rushing into her house. She said a few words to her, but Liu Xinwen didn't hear her. Mrs. Tang naturally followed her in to see what was going on. At the door, she heard the shocking news from Liu Xinwen. Lan Fen was Tang Yun's childhood friend, and they had a very good relationship. It was only after that incident that they met. It should have been over after such a long time, but she suddenly heard that Lan Fen wanted to jump off the building. What should she do? Mom, I'll go with Wen. Tang Yun didn't say anything else as she pulled Liu Xinwen and ran outside. Hey, be careful. Mrs. Tang hurriedly reminded her. Auntie, what's wrong? Lin Yi didn't understand. He only knew that someone wanted to jump off the building. Hey, one of Yun Er's good friends, Lan Fen, got hurt a few years ago. I didn't expect her to want to jump off a building. Mrs. Tang said worriedly. No, I have to go take a look too. But Mrs. Tang hadn't even finished her sentence when Xiaobo heard Lan Fen's name. He charged out the door with a whoosh, chasing after Tang Yun and Xinwen. Lan Fen. Lin Yi shook his head. No wonder Kang Xiaobo was so nervous. Ah? Lin Yi, your classmate. Mrs. Tang was confused by Kang Xiaobo's actions. Lin Yi, of course, knew why Kang Xiaobo was acting like this. Auntie, let's go, we'll go as well. There were already a lot of people in front of the building, and it was quite rowdy. Tang Yun and Xinwen, on the other hand, stood outside the crowd, not knowing what to do. Xiaobo ran over as well, and when he raised his head, he froze. The window on the left side of the 3rd floor was completely open, and there was a girl in white lying on top of it. It was Lan Fen from the photo. Although she looked haggard, she still had a delicate beauty to her. Kang Xiaobo's heart skipped a beat. Fen. I'm Liu Xinwen. Wen, can you hear me? Liu Xinwen made a trumpet with her hands and shouted. However, Fen, who was on the 3rd floor, didn't seem to hear Liu Xinwen's words at all. She was in a trance, and her eyes were empty as she looked into the distance. Fen, Go back, it's dangerous. Tang Yun was also nervous, and didn't know what to do. The people in the shanty town knew that Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen were Xiaofen's best friends. The crowd automatically opened a path for Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen to pass. When they got to the front, they saw Lan Fen's mother, Song Huiping, standing there anxiously. She didn't know what to do, and her eyes were filled with tears. She looked at Fen upstairs, and shouted her name, but Fen ignored her. Auntie Song, Fen. Tang Yun saw Huiping and quickly asked. Ah, Tang Yun, Liu Xinwen, you're here. Hurry and talk to Fen. I don't know what happened, but she locked herself in her room and wanted to jump off the building. Her father went up, but he couldn't open the door, and is contacting the locksmith company. Huiping was anxious, but she still put her hope on Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen. Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo also squeezed over. Kang Xiaobo looked even more anxious than Tang Yun, and his forehead was covered in sweat. Boss, what should we do? What should we do? Chapter 195. Chapter 195, Shocking Resemblance. Don't jump, please don't jump. What's wrong with you? You're still young, you have the best years of your life. Kang Xiaobo didn't know why, but he was so excited that he wanted to jump up and down. His voice was shockingly loud, as if there was a loudspeaker in his mouth. Kang Xiaobo's loud voice was much louder than Tang Yun's, Liu Xinwen's, and Huiping's voices. It stood out in the midst of the noisy crowd. This time, the voice attracted the attention of Lan Fen on the third floor. Lan Fen lowered her head in a daze and looked towards the source of the voice. With one look, her face revealed an expression of disbelief. Her eyes also slightly brightened and she became very excited. She muttered to herself. Although her voice was not loud, the people downstairs who were close to her could still hear her clearly. Jiaoming, is that you? You finally came to see me. Lan Fen's lips curved into a happy smile. You came to find me, you didn't abandon me after all. Jiaoming. Kang Xiaobo didn't understand what Lan Fen was talking about. He looked at Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen, confused. Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen were confused as well, thinking that Lan Fen was hallucinating. But when they turned around and saw Kang Xiaobo's face, Tang Yun couldn't help but call out in surprise. When? He and that Kang Ming. Tang Yun felt that Xiaobo looked familiar, but she didn't pay much attention to it. She knew that he wasn't a good person, and that he must have been a bad student at school. Maybe she'd seen him do something bad before, but she didn't think too much about it. Xiaobo looked familiar, but Tang Yun didn't think too much about it. But today, after hearing Lan Fen's words and looking at Kang Xiaobo's face, Tang Yun had to admit that it was similar. It was too similar. It was hard to link the two together if you didn't think about it in that direction, but if you compared Kang Xiaobo and Kang Ming, the two's facial features, nose, mouth, they weren't exactly the same, but they were shockingly similar. Not good. Lan Fen wouldn't mistake him for Kang Jiaoming, right? Don't make any mistakes. Liu Xinwen was also shocked. How could there be so many coincidences in the world? At this time, a boy who looked like Kang Ming appeared at the scene of Lan Fen jumping off the building. Kang Ming? From Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen's conversation, Kang Xiaobo could guess something. Lan Fen must have been hurt in the past, otherwise she wouldn't have said those strange things. However, the name Kang Ming was like a sharp sword, stabbing into Kang Xiaobo's heart. His face twisted as he clenched his fists tightly. Even his breathing became rapid. You said that she mistook me for Kang Ming? Yeah, you look so much like the man who abandoned Xiao Fen. You're not his relative, are you? Liu Xinwen didn't see the strange expression on Kang Xiaobo's face. She thought that he was confused, so she didn't hold back when she spoke. Go hide, your face is going to collide with mine. Relatives her. Kang Xiaoming's eyes flashed with a hint of malevolence as he repeated those three words. Liu Xinwen was right. Kang Ming was Kang Xiaobo's relative. He was the grandson of his grandpa's lineage, so technically, he was his second cousin. What are you mumbling about? Hurry up and hide. Don't let anything happen to you. Liu Xinwen didn't hear what Kang Xiaobo said and frowned. Kang Xiaobo's heart was filled with bitterness and anger. Was she abandoned by his second cousin, Kang Mingming? Such a good girl was forced to jump off a building. Just as Kang Xiaobo was in a daze, Lan Fen, who was on the third floor, showed a happy and satisfied smile. Jiaoming bro. I'm coming, wait for me. Tang Yun, Liu Xinwen, and Song Huiping knew that this wasn't good. Lan Fen's emotions weren't right. Did she take things too hard? Xiao Fen. Tang Yun called out nervously, but before she could finish, a white shadow fell from the building. Xiao Fen. Huiping screamed at the top of her lungs. Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen didn't know what to do. They didn't think that Lan Fen would jump off the building without any warning. Lan Fen. Kang Xiaobo rushed up, wanting to catch Lan Fen. But whether it was speed or judgment, he couldn't accurately pinpoint the location of Lan Fen's fall. Lin Yi sighed and chased after him. He quickly pushed Kang Xiaobo to the correct location. But under the current situation, no one would notice these minute changes. Lin Yi was very secretive. People who saw it would only think that he was here with Kang Xiaobo to save her. In a battlefield filled with bullets, it was hard to defend against an enemy's sneak attack. If one couldn't pinpoint the direction, it was almost impossible to walk out alive. Lin Yi pretended to be nervous the moment Xiao Fen fell to the ground, but he pushed Kang Xiaobo's arm and caught Xiao Fen. With the speed and height of Xiao Fen's fall, if one wasn't professionally trained, they wouldn't be able to withstand the gravity of the fall. It was very likely that they would let go again after catching her. Although there was a buffer in between, it could easily cause casualties. So, Lin Yi could only help Kang Xiaobo once. This was a guy who'd been following him around ever since he'd transferred, calling him boss. He didn't mind helping him save the damsel in distress this time. But when Kang Xiaobo caught Xiao Fen firmly, Lin Yi quietly let go of Kang Xiaobo's arm. He believed that Kang Xiaobo wouldn't have noticed anything amiss in the tense situation just now. In a situation like this, there was only nervousness in his heart, and his mind was a mess. Even if he thought about it later, he wouldn't remember it clearly. Xiao Fen, Tang Yun, Liu Xinwen, Song Huiping, and the surrounding residents surrounded Kang Xiaobo. They were happy and surprised when they saw that Kang Xiaobo caught Xiao Fen. Did Kang Xiaobo catch Xiao Fen? Because of the sudden incident, although they had already called the police, it would take some time for the police and fire department to arrive. It was only 10 minutes, and they didn't expect Xiao Fen to jump down. Xiao Fen, are you okay? Don't scare Mom, are you okay? Song Huiping was the first to rush up and wanted to snatch Xiao Fen from Kang Xiaobo's arms. But Kang Xiaobo was also stunned and hugged Xiao Fen tightly. Chapter 196. The emotional Kang Xiaobo. Lin Yi had already moved to the side, allowing Kang Xiaobo to be the hero saving the damsel in distress. Lan Fen had fainted, perhaps from the shock of falling from a high place, or perhaps from Kang Xiaobo hugging her too tightly. Huiping felt Lan Fen's nose and let out a sigh of relief when she realized that she was still breathing. Phew. Xinwen gave Kang Xiaobo a thumbs up after seeing that Xiaofen was fine. Amazing, hero. You caught her from so high up. Amazing. Xinwen's words reminded Huiping that the young man in front of her was her daughter's savior. She touched her daughter's skinny cheeks as she thanked Xiaobo profusely. Kid, thank you so much. If it weren't for your bad hand, our Fen wouldn't even know. Song Huiping was so scared that tears rolled down her cheeks. Yeah, it was scary to think about the situation just now. If Kang Xiaobo hadn't caught her, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Auntie, it's what I should do. Kang Xiaobo's face was a little red. He'd saved Lan Fen purely out of love for her. Someone else might not have been so nervous. Kang Xiaobo wasn't a saint, he wasn't a firefighter, he wasn't a police officer, and he definitely wasn't an Ultraman. He wouldn't have rushed over if it wasn't Lan Fen. Let's not talk about whether or not he could be saved. If he didn't manage to save him and ended up injuring himself or even dying, then the loss would outweigh the gain. It wasn't like this hadn't happened before. Someone saw someone jumping from a building and tried to catch them, only to be crushed to death by the falling person instead. That's nothing. Bro, you're amazing. I, Xinwen, admire you. Liu Xinwen didn't notice the look on Kang Xiaobo's face. She patted Kang Xiaobo's shoulder excitedly. If you need anything in the future, you can find us. It was just a coincidence. Xiaobo was being truthful, he didn't even know how he'd managed to catch Lan Fen. Was it a coincidence? Tang Yun looked thoughtfully at Lin Yi, who had already dodged to the side. Her lips curled up slightly. What a strange person. The others didn't notice anything, but Tang Yun, who was attentive, noticed something. When Kang Xiaobo was saving people, Lin Yi rushed over, but he didn't go to pick them up. Instead, he pushed and shoved Kang Xiaobo, which made Tang Yun suspicious. Did the rescue just now have anything to do with him? Tang Yun didn't know why she was paying so much attention to Lin Yi. She moved her gaze away from Lin Yi and focused on Xiaofen. An ear-piercing siren sounded from afar. The sirens of ambulances, police cars, and fire trucks mixed together as they drove towards the alleyway. However, when they learned that the girl had jumped off the building and was caught by someone, although the firemen were surprised, they asked about the situation and left. Although she didn't want to sit in Lin Yi's car, she was worried about Xiaofen. She nodded. The back seat of the Beetle didn't have a door. They could only get in after putting down the front seat. It was troublesome. However, although Kang Xiaobo was worried about Xiaofen, he didn't forget to create opportunities for Lin Yi and Tang Yun. He gave the front seat to Tang Yun and went to the back seat. Lin Yi had been to the First People's Hospital before. Last time, he injured his leg there. Therefore, he didn't need to follow the ambulance. Lin Yi could find his way there by himself. Even if he didn't have the GPS, he wouldn't get lost. Xiaobo was in a state of extreme indignation. It was as if he could see a frail girl stumbling behind a taxi, looking at the man and the beautiful woman in the car in despair. She screamed at the top of her lungs, wanting to stop the man in the taxi, but she was powerless. Just as her heart was breaking, a truck drove over and knocked her down. The man in the taxi, on the other hand, didn't even get out of the car and left directly. Xiaofen, on the other hand, was lying in a pool of blood, but her heart was still thinking about that despicable man. Kang Ming. Kang Xiaobo's face became twisted. If it was someone else, Kang Xiaobo wouldn't be like this, but this person was his second cousin brother. The second cousin brother who looked down on him and laughed at him since he was young. Fu. Kang Xiaobo let out a long breath and looked at the dent in the roof. He was a little embarrassed. Boss, I was a little too emotional. Forget it, it's nothing. Lin Yi had already thought of a solution. He smiled and said to Kang Xiaobo, Xiaobo, what do you think? Chapter 198. Tang Yun's worries. Boss, I want to try and get in touch with Xiaofen, Kang Xiaobo said after some hesitation. This was the first girl he'd fallen for so much. It had only been a few short hours, but Xiaofen's face was etched deep into his heart. His feelings for Tang Yun, Meng Yarrow, and Yu Shu were just admiration and admiration. He knew that it wasn't possible, and he was just fantasizing about it. But it was different for Lan Fen. Kang Xiaobo didn't know what love was at first sight, but he had a good impression of her the moment he saw her picture, especially when he saw that frail figure slowly falling from the third floor's windowsill. Kang Xiaobo's heart felt like it was breaking. After listening to Tang Yun's story, Kang Xiaobo felt even more affection for the poor girl, but he was also feeling impulsive right now. It was an impulse that didn't care about the consequences, and it might change after he calmed down. Lin Yi, naturally, understood Kang Xiaobo's feelings. He nodded and didn't say anything. We'll talk when we get to the hospital. Tang Yun could see Kang Xiaobo's hesitation as well. She sighed and didn't say anything. She glared at Lin Yi. You young masters only know how to harm girls. Me? Lin Yi blinked. I'm not a young master, am I? Tang Yun curled her lips and ignored him. Kang Xiaobo was depressed after his anger. He kept his head down, not knowing what he was thinking. Lin Yi parked the car in the parking lot of Songshan's first hospital, and the three went to the emergency room. They found a doctor on duty in the emergency room, and Xiaobo took the lead. "Doctor, can I ask, how's Lan Fen?" "Lan Fen? You mean the girl who jumped off the building just now?" The doctor flipped through the records on the table. "Lan Fen's fine, but she fainted from exhaustion and shock. She's in the emergency room 6. She might need to be hospitalized for observation." "Who are you guys to her?" "We're her friends." "Thank you, doctor," Kang Xiaobo said as he went to find Lan Fen. "Wait, you guys need to settle the medical fees and procedures first. Lan Fen's family only paid 300 kuai as a deposit, it's not enough." The doctor stopped Kang Xiaobo. "Ah, all right, we'll do it right away," Xiaobo said without thinking. "Where do we do it?" "He needs to stay in the hospital for observation. The patient's physical condition is very poor and very weak. Let's stay in the hospital for a week. I'll write the procedures for you," the doctor said. "All right." Xiaobo nodded. He'd listened to whatever the doctor said. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Did Kang Xiaobo really fall for Lan Fen? Although it was a little dramatic, this was an age that was full of drama. The pure love between a young man and a young woman was stubborn and impulsive. Was this Kang Xiaobo's first love? A man's first love was always impulsive. He'd go through fire and water, he'd be hot-headed. However, would he continue to date Lan Fen after he calmed down? He glanced at Tang Yun and saw that she was still staring at him angrily. What's wrong? Lin Yi was curious about Tang Yun's attitude today. She was indifferent to him before, but after getting in the car, she seemed to have changed back to the old Tang Yun. Tang Yun looked at Kang Xiaobo and turned around to look at Lin Yi. "Let me ask you something." "Huh?" Lin Yi paused and looked at Tang Yun in confusion. "What are you thinking?" Tang Yun bit her lips and lowered her head shyly as she asked. "What are you thinking?" Lin Yi didn't understand. "Xiao Fen and Kang Xiaobo? It depends on Kang Xiaobo. I'm not talking about him, I'm talking about you." Tang Yun raised her head and looked at Lin Yi. "That night, I asked you, do you want to be friends with me?" Lin Yi didn't think that Tang Yun was still thinking about this. He nodded. Since he talked to his old man and decided to stay here for a long time, he didn't have to worry about anything. "Then do you want to play or stay with me in the future?" Tang Yun frowned and looked at Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, if you just want to play, can you stay away from me, my mom, and my family? I'm not Xiao Fen." She was young and ignorant, "but I'm already 18. I won't fall for your tricks." "Ooh." Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't think that Tang Yun would ask such a question. "What do I want to play? I don't have that much time to play. Do I look like I'm playing? Fine. If you don't want to play and want to be with me, then don't bother me during this time, okay? Let me focus on getting into university. I don't want to be distracted at this time." Tang Yun's delicate face had a trace of stubbornness. "If you still want to be friends with me at that time, then I will agree." Tang Yun's showdown with Lin Yi today was the result of thinking for a few days. Tang Yun didn't know how she felt about Lin Yi. She only knew that he had helped her family a lot, and she owed him too many favors. But Tang Yun naturally wouldn't go out with Lin Yi just to repay him. It was undeniable that Tang Yun's heart didn't reject this man who suddenly came into her life. While she was panicking, Tang Yun put on a cold face and faced Lin Yi. Tang Yun was afraid. She was afraid that she would fall too deep. Although she didn't admit that she had puppy love, the hatred she had for Lin Yi was getting lesser and lesser. What replaced it was gratitude and an inexplicable throbbing. Especially after Liu Xin when asked about her and Lin Yi, Tang Yun's heart couldn't calm down. Even in her dreams, she dreamed of Lin Yi. The most infuriating part was that she dreamed of kissing him. It was a strange dream, and it didn't feel real. Lin Yi's face wasn't clear in the dream, but Tang Yun knew that it was Lin Yi when she woke up from the dream. She had a wet dream, and the first one was Lin Yi. Tang Yun, of course, knew that it was normal to have wet dreams during puberty. The person in the dream was usually the person you liked in real life. This was what Tang Yun saw in a health textbook. But the more it was like this, the more panicked Tang Yun felt. She was afraid that she would slowly develop feelings for Lin Yi and be with him. Chapter 199. Chapter 199. Picking up her wallet with no other choice, Tang Yun decided to lay her cards on the table with Lin Yi. She needed to make things clear to Lin Yi, otherwise Lin Yi wouldn't show up at her house all the time. If Lin Yi was just playing around, then she'd tell him to stay away from her and stop bothering her. If he was serious, then Tang Yun had a deadline, and that was after the college entrance exams. First, she could focus on studying for the exams, and not let these things affect her grades. Second, it was a test for Lin Yi. If he was just playing around, then he wouldn't have that much patience. He'd have fallen in love with someone else a few months after the college entrance exams. If Lin Yi really wanted to wait until after her college entrance exams, then she could give him a chance. College was a paradise for love. Tang Yun was a good girl, but she still yearned for a romantic relationship. Lin Yi didn't expect Tang Yun to say something like this. Was it rejection or acceptance? Rejection or acceptance? Lin Yi wanted to say something, but Tang Yun had already turned around and walked towards Kang Xiaobo. Lin Yi quickly chased after her. Tang Yun had returned to her usual calmness, as if she hadn't said anything. Tang Yun was still the same Tang Yun from before, but there was a hint of shyness in her eyes, making her look even more beautiful. It made Lin Yi's heart beat faster. He came to the payment window and saw Kang Xiaobo standing there in a daze with the bill in his hand. Lin Yi asked, "Xiaobo, are you done with the procedures?" "Boss, the deposit is 10,000, I don't have enough." Kang Xiaobo was a little embarrassed. He was the one who rushed over with the bill, but he didn't have the money. "Oh." Lin Yi paused and looked at Tang Yun. "Isn't Xiao Fen's mother here?" "Xiao Fen's family isn't much better off than mine. We've spent quite a lot of money on Xiao Fen's medical bills, and we're still in debt. We don't have any extra money left." Tang Yun sighed. "Are you willing to pay for it first? I promise Xiao Fen's family will return it to you in the future." "Me?" Lin Yi wasn't a busybody. Lin Yi never cared about people who had nothing to do with him. However, Xiao Fen was different. No matter what, she was someone that Kang Xiaobo was interested in. Lin Yi would naturally help her if he could. However, Lin Yi didn't bring the credit card that Forbert gave him. He didn't spend much money, so he just threw the card in the drawer at home. Other than the 1,000 kuai he got from Sun Jingyi, he had Chuntian's wallet. Lin Yi first gave the 1,000 kuai to Kang Xiaobo, and then opened Chuntian's wallet. There were about 3,000 to 5,000 RMB in the wallet, and the rest were all USD. However, the denominations were quite large. There were 501,000 USD. This kind of USD was no longer in the market, but it wasn't voided. However, it was kept as a collectible because the price of a single USD had exceeded its denomination. No one would spend it with USD. Chen Tian obviously didn't put so much USD in his wallet for spending, but to show off. Lin Yi had seen a few of these people before, and he could see that House Wu was quite powerful. Lin Yi passed all the RMB to Kang Xiaobo. "Can you ask USD?" Kang Xiaobo gratefully took the money from Lin Yi and ran to the counter. "Can I ask if USD is fine?" "Yes, but you can only pay the deposit, not the settlement." "You must pay with RMB, the worker said. "Okay, thank you." Kang Xiaobo let out a sigh of relief and ran to Lin Yi. "Boss, USD is fine too, but you can only pay the deposit, not the settlement." "Okay, go pay it then." Lin Yi handed all the $100 bills he had in his wallet to Xiaobo. As for the $501,000 bills, the cashier wouldn't be able to recognize them. They'd probably think it was fake. "I didn't know that you were so rich. You even have USD." Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi mockingly. Didn't he admit that he was a young master? If he wasn't a young master, how could he have so much money? "Oh, you mean this wallet?" "I picked it up." Lin Yi shrugged. "Picked it up?" Tang Yun paused and got angry. Did he think she was an idiot? Where did he pick it up? Why couldn't she pick it up? "Look at the ID if you don't believe me." Lin Yi took out Chuntian's ID and waved it in front of Tang Yun. "Ah!" Tang Yun's eyes widened in disbelief. This wallet really didn't belong to Lin Yi. He really picked it up. You really picked it up. Then. You still dare to spend the money in there? Weren't you the one who told me to pay first? Lin Yi said as he stuffed his ID back into his pocket. Tang Yun didn't know what to say. How worried would he be if you didn't give it to the owner? The owner doesn't need to be worried, Lin Yi smiled, he gave it to me. Wu Chentian would be worried. If he was worried, then let him be. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of Chentian at all. At the end of the day, Chentian could only suffer in silence. Chapter 200. Chapter 200, Fen's illness. When he arrived at room 6, he saw Song Huiping and Liu Xinwen sitting on the innermost bed. It was a 4-person room, and the other 3 beds had patients on them as well. Kang Xiaobo didn't care about Huiping's weird stare. He rushed over and let out a sigh of relief when he saw Lan Fen on the bed. He knew from the doctor that Lan Fen was fine, but he didn't see it with his own eyes, so he was still worried. Yun, you're here. Liu Xinwen saw Tang Yun and quickly greeted her. Her eyes stopped on Lin Yi, who was beside Tang Yun, and a hint of playfulness appeared in her eyes. When, how's Fen? Tang Yun felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Xinwen. She moved to the side, putting some distance between them. Xiaofen is fine, but the doctor said that her body is too weak. She needs to be hospitalized for observation, so she needs to pay a deposit of 10,000 yuan. Liu Xinwen walked over and lowered her voice, but you and I both know about Xiaofen's family situation. Can we help her? I'll let Lin Yi pay for it first. Tang Yun felt uncomfortable after saying that. Liu Xinwen had misunderstood her relationship with Lin Yi, and now that she said that, didn't it prove that she was related to Lin Yi? Otherwise, why would he pay 10,000 yuan for Fen? Lin Yi. Liu Xinwen looked at Lin Yi, surprised. Yun, you and him, it's not what you think. I've already told him everything. I'll talk to you when I have time. Let's take a look at Fen first. Tang Yun whispered. Liu Xinwen didn't believe Tang Yun's words. From Tang Yun's behavior, it seemed like she was in love. Didn't she see Fen's lesson? Was she going to follow after her? It seemed like he could only watch Tang Yun closely from the sidelines. He didn't want her to fall into Lin Yi's trap. Kang Xiaobo rushed to Xiao Fen's bed without thinking too much. At that time, he just wanted to take a look at Xiao Fen. But after rushing over, he didn't know what to do next. He wanted to touch Xiao Fen's forehead, but he didn't dare to. Student, you are? Song Huiping had never seen Kang Xiaobo before. She was a little confused by her daughter's savior's sudden appearance today. Auntie, my name is Kang Xiaobo. Kang Xiaobo awkwardly introduced himself. I'm Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen's classmate. Thank you so much for today. If it wasn't for you, Xiao Fen still wouldn't know. Song Huiping remembered the dangerous situation and couldn't help but cry. This child has a hard life. Auntie, don't be emotional. Isn't Xiao Fen fine now? Kang Xiaobo didn't know what to do seeing Song Huiping cry. He quickly comforted her. Auntie, it's all in the past. Don't be sad. Yeah, it's all in the past. Huiping nodded and stood up. Young man, Tang Yun, Liu Xinwen, you guys help me take care of Fen. I need to go back and collect money. The doctor said that I need to pay 10,000 kuai for her. Auntie, it's fine. I've already paid. Kang Xiaobo quickly said and passed the bill to Song Huiping. Song Huiping was surprised. She took the bill and saw that it was 6,000 RMB and 1,000 USD as a deposit. No matter how dumb Song Huiping was, she felt that something was wrong. Not only had Xiaobo saved her daughter, but he'd even gone through all that trouble and put down the deposit. Huiping wouldn't believe it if Xiaobo said that it was all out of kindness. Child, you. Song Huiping's hands trembled as she looked at the bill. So much money, what are you? Kang Xiaobo was embarrassed by Huiping's gaze and quickly explained. Auntie, my boss paid for it first. Your boss? Huiping was puzzled. Where did this boss come from? Auntie Song, my classmate Lin Yi paid for it, Tang Yun explained. It's him. Lin Yi was pushed to the front and could only greet Hui Ping, "Hello, auntie." Hui Ping didn't know what to say. She'd thought that Xiaobo was interested in her daughter, but she wasn't too sure about it. Now that she heard that Lin Yi was the one paying for her daughter's hospital fees, who was this Lin Yi? "Young man. You." Hui Ping looked at Lin Yi, confused. Lin Yi didn't say anything before, so Hui Ping naturally ignored Lin Yi. Now, she saw a person who had no contact with her family pay for her family's hospital fees. Why was he doing this? "Ah, auntie, I'm Tang Yun's good friend," Lin Yi said in a flirtatious tone. "Ah, oh." Hui Ping misunderstood. She misunderstood the relationship between Lin Yi and Tang Yun. If Lin Yi was just a friend of Tang Yun's, why would he pay for Tang Yun's friend's hospital fees? Tang Yun also heard the ambiguity in Lin Yi's words. She glared at him and was a bit annoyed. This person really went too far. She already told him everything, but he still wanted more. However, Tang Yun couldn't explain in this situation. The more she explained, the more complicated it would be. She could only pretend that she didn't hear it. At this time, Xiao Fen let out a weak moan. Everyone's attention was focused on Xiao Fen. Hui Ping didn't care about Lin Yi and quickly turned around. "Xiao Fen, are you awake?" "Mom, where am I?" Xiao Fen looked at the 4 drip on her hand in confusion and looked around the room. "Xiao Fen, you're awake? You don't remember? You wanted to jump off a building?" Hui Ping quickly ran over and held her daughter's hand. "Jump off a building? Why would I jump off a building?" Xiao Fen opened her mouth. "You don't remember? It's best if you don't remember." Hui Ping said, "Xiao Fen, you're sleepwalking again. You dreamt of that bastard. You wanted to jump off a building, from the 3rd floor of our house." "Ah." Xiao Fen was shocked by her mother's words. She wanted to jump off a building? Why didn't she remember it at all? "Then did I jump?" "Of course not. If it wasn't for this classmate who caught you downstairs, Xiao Fen, you would've." Hui Ping's voice choked again. Xiao Fen seemed to know that there was something wrong with her body. She didn't doubt her mother's words. She quietly turned around and looked at Kang Xiaobo. However, when she looked at Kang Xiaobo, her eyes suddenly froze. It was as if she was about to fall into a hallucination again. Chapter 201. Intermittent mental illness in the ward. Kang Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xin Wen were shocked as well. It was the same every time Xiaofen acted up. She would fall into hallucinations and go crazy for a while before slowly falling asleep. She wouldn't remember anything when she woke up. This time, she jumped off the building. It was the result of her going crazy. Intermittent mental illness. Lin Yi sighed faintly. Xiaofen's feelings had been hurt, and it created a psychological barrier. Due to poor guidance, she became like this. However, intermittent mental illness was different from mental illness. It was only the early symptoms of mental illness. With proper guidance and acupuncture, the symptoms could be alleviated and eradicated. Hui Ping heard Kang Xiaoming's name and looked at Xiaobo, a look of surprise on her face as well. Xiaobo did look a little like that bad guy. Hui Ping frowned at the thought. No wonder her daughter was acting up all of a sudden, no wonder she jumped off the building. It was all because of this student. But thinking about it, she couldn't blame him for what he looked like. Plus, he was her daughter's savior. How could she hate him? "Xiaoming, you still have me in your heart, right?" Xiaofen looked at Kang Xiaobo with blurred eyes. She waved her arms, wanting to get off the bed to look for Kang Xiaobo. The needle in her hand almost fell. Xiaobo jumped in fright, afraid that she'd get off the bed. He ran over to her, but Fen wrapped her arms around him, not letting go. "Xiaoming, you finally came back to see me. You won't leave this time, right? You'll treat me well for the rest of your life, right?" Xiaofen hugged Kang Xiaobo and said, "I." Kang Xiaobo was awkward. This was the scene he was looking forward to. Kang Xiaobo thought that it was just a fantasy when he held Xiaofen in his arms. But now that his fantasy had become reality, he couldn't feel happy at all. Because of Xiao Fen's illness, and also because Xiao Fen was thinking about another man. Although Xiao Fen was hugging him, Kang Xiaobo, he was another man, Kang Mingming's substitute. Kang Xiaobo wanted to let go of Xiao Fen. This kind of hug made Kang Xiaobo feel uncomfortable. He didn't want this kind of hug, he wanted a sincere hug from Xiao Fen when she's awake. Auntie Song. Kang Xiaobo looked up at Hui Ping. I'm sorry, classmate. Hui Ping said helplessly. Wait for me, I'll call the doctor. The only thing Hui Ping could do was call the doctor. She had no other choice. Wait. Lin Yi sighed slightly. Since this matter happened to him, and it was related to Kang Xiaobo, then Lin Yi really couldn't ignore it. The hospital could only use electric shocks or injections to calm Xiao Fen down, but no matter which method it would be harmful to the body, especially since Xiao Fen's body was extremely weak right now. If they injected drugs or made her fall into a coma, her body would become even weaker. Lin Yi didn't wait for Hui Ping to reply and quickly walked to Xiao Fen's side. He looked at the 4 drip in her hand and saw that the needle was rolling. He pulled it out without hesitation and turned off the 4 drip. Then, he used the needle to quickly pierce into Xiao Fen's Higu, Jiansha, Shenmen, Baihui, Daling, and other acupuncture points. Xiao Fen slowly calmed down and let go of Kang Xiaobo. Then, she quietly fell back onto the bed. Hui Ping saw that Lin Yi was using needles to pierce her daughter. She wanted to stop him, but Lin Yi's movements were too fast. He was done before she could stop him. In the ward, Tang Yun, Liu Xinwen, and Kang Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi in shock. They didn't know what he was doing. Boss, you. Kang Xiaobo subconsciously chose to believe Lin Yi. Although he cared about Xiao Fen, his instinct told him that Lin Yi would never harm Xiao Fen, so, he felt that Lin Yi was doing this for a reason. It's just simple acupuncture. Lin Yi shrugged, she will temporarily calm down and fall asleep. When she wakes up, she will be back to normal. Ah, acupuncture? Kang Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Boss, you know acupuncture? Not only Kang Xiaobo, but Tang Yun and Liu Xinwen also looked at Lin Yi in surprise. He knew acupuncture? Hui Ping went to check her daughter's breathing. She was relieved when she realized that there was no problem. Lin Yi used such a simple method to calm her daughter down. It saved her the trouble of calling a doctor. Not only did it save her medical fees, but her daughter didn't have to suffer any pain. Tang Yun felt that she couldn't understand the man in front of her anymore. He was a rich young master, but he didn't seem to be one. However, he was more domineering than those rich young masters. He wouldn't hold back when dealing with people. However, he knew the recipe for barbecue. It wasn't something that could be made easily. Lin Yi wrote it down in just one lesson. This wasn't the big deal. Today, when Lan Fen jumped off the building, no one noticed Lin Yi, but Tang Yun did. Was he the one who helped Kang Xiaobo catch Lan Fen? Lin Yi showed his amazing acupuncture skills before she could dispel her suspicions. Tang Yun couldn't help but re-evaluate Lin Yi. He was different from the rich young masters Xiao Fen knew. So what if he was different? Tang Yun thought to herself. Even if he was different, she wouldn't be friends with him. Her first priority was to face the exams. She couldn't be distracted by this. Little Tang Yun reminded herself that this was just his appearance. Don't be fooled by him, don't ever. However, the commotion in the room still alerted the doctors. The family members of the patients in the same room went to find the doctors. A doctor ran over. What happened to the patient in bed for? It's fine, doctor. Sorry for troubling you. She's fine now. Hui Ping stood up and explained when she saw the doctor. Is everything all right? The doctor was stunned. Didn't they say that the patient on the 4th bed had a mental illness and was going crazy? This student used acupuncture to make my daughter fall asleep, Hui Ping explained, afraid that the doctor wouldn't believe her. Lin Yi couldn't help but groan inwardly. It would have been fine if she didn't explain. Now that she did, things would be troublesome. As expected, the doctor's expression changed immediately. Acupuncture? How do you do it? How can you mess around in the hospital? What if someone dies? I'm not messing around. He just used the needle of the drip. Huiping said carefully, shocked. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.